Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to a new MSI Insider live stream. Well, not just MSI today, because I'm here with the one and only
Martijn, hey, Michiel.
Welcome back, welcome. Doing good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good.
It's been a while since you've been in the live stream.
It's absolutely been a while, but it's great to be back, and obviously lots of exciting new hardware to talk about. Yeah, and I think we have some pretty cool topics lined up for today, right? So
for sure.
Yeah.
So first, an apology, because this live stream was planned for last week. Unfortunately, the sample didn't make it in time. And now, 1 week later, we have two samples.
Yeah, we got two now, so
yeah. So we've got one here separately. We have one on a test bench. By the way, for the giveaway, because we have a special giveaway today where you can win a game code for Star Wars Outlaws. I saw some comments in the chat that it wasn't working, but apparently Eric fixed it in the background. So thank you, Eric, in the chat, and then make sure to participate in the giveaway. You can either follow the direct link in the chat on YouTube or Twitch, or you can go to msi.com/2/insider and go to Gleam through there. Within Gleam, you can perform certain actions. The more actions you perform, the bigger chance you'll have to win. And if you're a returning visitor, also make sure to claim your loyalty bonus to have a slight edge in the giveaway. So, today's topic, and this is a topic I know that many of our viewers have been waiting for, because we will talk about the new Ryzen 7 9800X3D.
This is it, yeah.
So the X3D is the main thing, right?
Yeah, well,
what makes the CPU special? Yeah,
obviously it's Zen 5, right, with all the IPC increase that we have going from Raphael or 7000 series to 9000 series, and then combined with 3D V-Cache, obviously second generation, which we'll dive into a little bit later as well, and then basically combining those things, brilliant engineering, obviously, and some really cool things that we could improve over the course of time. Cheers. And yeah, that allowed us to squeeze out even more performance for this generation X3D product, basically. So 9000 series combined with 3D V-Cache, as I mentioned, but this time with second gen V-Cache below the compute die or the CCD, which basically helps improve frequency on both boost clock and base clock. But at the same time, 8 cores, 16 threads still, and obviously better heat dissipation, and that will help, especially in cooling scenarios, but also with higher performance and higher frequencies. Yeah.
So for the people who are completely new to maybe X3D CPUs and 3D V-Cache, could you quickly explain who is this for and when will it benefit you?
Yeah, well, it's just an additional L3 cache, so 64 additional megabytes on top of an already existing 32, top of my head, or 30 megabytes of L3 cache. So that will significantly increase, especially gaming performance, is what we've noticed. And you know, the huge benefit there is obviously you can get load many more textures, many more games, draw calls into the CPU rather than having to rely on the DRAM, the system's memory. And so L3 cache, obviously being inside the CPU, is a lot faster than the regular system memory, so that will yield you a lot of performance gains in certain games and you know, various similar applications that behave the same like games, for example. So regular Ryzen, let's say Zen 5 CPU and cores, as I mentioned, 16% IPC uplift compared to the previous generation Zen 4 part, but then coupled with that 3D V-Cache, it's just a phenomenal gaming CPU. And you know, it's not just in certain titles, it's across the board, right? In certain titles you see much more performance than in other titles, but across the board you'll see performance gain on almost every single game. At least that's you know, a more recent title for sure. Yeah.
So for the people who will be wondering what's all the fuss about, it's only an 8-core CPU. Well, this is mostly meant for gaming, yes. And that is where it will give you most extra performance. Yep. And also games don't really benefit for more than 8 cores, at least not at this point. So it won't really cost you anything that you have fewer cores, but it will gain you a lot having that 3D V-Cache available.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've also seen, obviously, with the increase on boost clock and base clock, is that you now, with productivity workloads, you also see less of a delta between the previous generation 3D V-Cache products.
Because that was interesting. With the 7000 series, if you had like let's stick with Ryzen 7, and you had the 7700X and the 7800X 3D. The 7700X in like productivity workloads or like 3D rendering, Cinebench, those kind of things was actually slightly faster because it was clocked slightly higher. But that's different this generation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've now increased our core clock to 4.7 top of my head base and then 5.2 gigahertz boost. That's a significant increase, 500 megahertz and 200 megahertz over the previous generation 7800 X3D. And with that, you'll just see a lot more performance also outside of games, just because of that frequency increase, indeed.
So that also means that the X3D Ryzen 7 is now even, in productivity workloads, also slightly faster than the regular 9000 series Ryzen 7.
It depends. I mean, it depends on the workload. It depends on, you know, obviously the regular 9000 series, the 9700X is still a very, very good CPU. If you're doing more than just gaming on your rig, then obviously that's a very interesting CPU to consider as well, and especially near the holiday season, obviously with some great promos going on and some great regional pricing that we're seeing on those parts.
But the performance hit is gone for X3D because of lower frequency.
There's less performance delta between having a 3D V-Cache product and a non-3D V-Cache product in productivity and applications. Agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. This product is also already available because we're planning on doing this last week, because last week this was already launched by AMD. It is already in the channels. Can be a bit difficult to get one still, because there was quite a run on this, right?
There is a lot of pull and ask for this product and a lot of demand, obviously, which is great to see. And thank you everybody for also even reading the reviews and everybody who's paying attention or, you know, spending some time on these CPUs and the news around these CPUs. I mean, it's just phenomenal to see a lot of excitement in the market for it. And again, the third-party reviews that we saw were overwhelmingly positive, I would say, much in line with what we saw internally, which obviously generates a lot of internal excitement for these products as well. 3D V-Cache, as you may remember, on 7000 series, it was more of a, let's say, side project than it was internally, or let's say initially meant to be a main lead. But
already very popular, even in the 5000 series. 5800 X3D was also a very popular gaming CPU.
Absolutely, and with that discovery, we decided, you know, for 9000 series out of the gate, we want to make sure that we do something special, right, for second generation 3D V-Cache. And so our engineers looked at several improvements that they could make. Obviously, there's time to market for a CPU to make it on shelf, and then with the additional time that we had on 9000 series, and within the back of our minds having 3D V-Cache being designed in, that allowed us to look for those alternatives, like moving the 3D V-Cache underneath the CCDs, for example, you know, and also reducing the TSVs and the basically keeping that same signal integrity, but also having to ensure the most optimal heat dissipation at the same time. So when you're an end user, when you're a gamer or a system builder, for example, you just always want a nice, cool and quiet system with the highest possible FPS, and that's exactly what the 9800 X3D delivers.
Paul B is asking, at MSI Gaming, can you let the viewers know that the FPS gains are based on 1080p and not 2 or 4K? Well, this is always the case. When you higher your resolution, you become more dependent on your GPU. So the gains you will get from a CPU are basically automatically smaller. So you will always see the biggest differences the lower the resolution is, because it will be more CPU limited. So this CPU, I would say, is especially a blessing for like esports titles where people don't play on a very high resolution. If you play everything 4K, ultra, ray tracing, etc., then your GPU will be your most important part in your computer, and CPU will make a bit of a difference, but less of a difference. When you play competitive, lower settings, lower resolutions, higher FPS, that's where you will see big gains from the CPU side. So it all depends on what you want, and it also differs how you should balance your PC, basically. Yeah, and 1080p,
it's a good question, by the way. 1080p is something to really showcase a CPU bottleneck much more easier than it is as 4K or a different resolution, where the GPU, as you mentioned, becomes a bottleneck more quickly.
Yeah, then you're basically measuring the GPU speed and not really the CPU speed anymore, because that's where your bottleneck is.
And I think there's also some reviewers already showing that even at 4K, you get a nice performance uplift with the 9800 X3D. So still overall, I'd say, when we set out to create this product and to launch it and to, let's say, put it in the market as the #1 gaming CPU, I think that's not just at 1080p. There's also 1440p, depending on the title that you play, the resolution that you play at, you know, the high FPS if you're a competitive gamer. Even
especially
there,
in those titles, also on if you play 1440p, you will still see quite a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Of course, it also depends per title, because some game titles by default are much more CPU limited, some are more GPU limited. Later on, we also have some test data for you, some live benchmarks. There you will also see the differences. So in some cases, you will see a very small difference. In other cases, you will see very big differences.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the exact situation, of course. But yeah, that's basically always the case with computer hardware.
Yeah, and as always, with any product launch, no matter the brand or the generation you're looking for, you may not even consider upgrading, but just any advice would be to look at third-party reviews, right? And go find your favorite game title and see how a product performs in that.
Yeah, look how you use a computer, basically.
Exactly.
That's where you need to base your choice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you already touched it briefly, because the 3D V-Cache on this generation has been updated compared to the 7000 series and the 5000 series, which were like first generation 3D V-Cache, and now you moved over to second generation V-Cache. Can you maybe briefly explain what kind of changes did you make and how can people see the benefits of this new generation 3D V-Cache?
Yeah, so with the second generation, the 3D V-Cache itself, so the SRAM basically is the same. It's the surrounding silicon that makes a difference. We used to have structural silicon added to make up for the difference between the CCD shape and size compared to the added 3D V-Cache. This time we don't need it. The 3D V-Cache is the same shape and size as the CCD, so the heat dissipation is much more lateral instead of horizontal as well, to ensure that the heat from the cache, which is considerably less, a lot less than the CCD, obviously, that's why moving that underneath makes more sense. So the cooler has better contact with the CCD, but still, if the 3D V-Cache should generate some heat, it's also much more easier to dissipate that heat at the same time.
So did that also help you to get the higher clock frequencies?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that allowed us to, and this is also the first 3D V-Cache product or X3D product, which is fully unlocked for overclocking, right? So those changes are the fundamental changes that improved performance, cooling and heat dissipation, as I mentioned, but also allowed us to finally open up this product for full overclocking. And I believe we've already seen quite some interesting results from it. So.
More about that later.
Okay.
Quickly, some questions. Leo is asking, guys, is it worth the upgrade if I already have a 7800 X3D?
Very good question. So depends on what you play. I mean, in certain titles you may see 20, maybe 25% performance uplift. In other titles you may see 8, for example, right? So it really depends. And if you're a competitive gamer, then any upgrade will help, obviously. Lower latency, higher FPS, so that'll help.
And again, also the resolution that you're playing on will make a big difference.
Absolutely.
If you play in 1080p, you will probably see a bigger difference than when you play in a 4K resolution.
Absolutely, and don't get me wrong, the 7800 X3D is still one of the best CPUs
still a very good
gaming,
CPU,
right? So the target audience, obviously, for a 9800 X3D is something on an older generation or a non-X3D CPU or a competitive brand CPU, where you're looking for, let's say, significant double-digit upgrades and updates in your frame rates and in your lowering your latency, then you know, you'll find a considerable improvement when you're obviously upgrading from a previous generation or the generation before that. So obviously,
and like you mentioned, like if you, for example, currently own a non-3D V-Cache product already on AM5, maybe you're running a Ryzen 9 7600 or something. Which is a fine CPU still for gaming, but there you will see quite a significant performance uplift, especially in certain situations, especially in games that really benefit from that 3D V-Cache. So if, for example, your favorite game benefits a lot from it, then it could be worth the upgrade. But a 7800 X3D, like you already mentioned, is already a very fast gaming CPU. So I think in most situations, you're probably still fine with your current CPU. If you really want to get basically the best out of it,
that's the whole thing, right? It's about choices. So we're about good, better, best in that sense, right? If you're on the 7600 today, good CPU does everything that you need to do. But if you find scenarios, or if you're, let's say, becoming more serious about your gaming, then obviously you may want to look at a different CPU, maybe an 8-core. And then the best situation, obviously, is with 3D V-Cache. So this is what the 9800 X3D is, offering the 8 cores and the 3D V-Cache.
Also, people that maybe use like an extremely high refresh rate monitor, they will benefit more from reaching those extremely high frame rates than other people would. Like if you play on 144 hertz or maybe 300 plus hertz, that's also a difference, of course. And then, if you play at 144 hertz, then the benefit of having a 9800 X3D over a 7800 X3D may be limited, but maybe at higher frequencies.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's one other thing to consider is the 1% lows, right? There's a huge increase in performance on the 9800 X3D compared to many other CPUs out there.
And this is an interesting thing, because I think many people, when they check a review, they check average frame rates, and that's how they compare CPUs. But I would argue that in many situations, 1% lows are even more important. And that has all to do with the fact that the 1% low is like the annoying stutter in a game when it dips, because the 1% low.
It removes immersiveness, that feeling that you're gaming. Yeah.
So I would much rather play at an average of 200 FPS with dips to 180 FPS than an average of 300 with dips to 100. It's way more noticeable, because the dips, those are the annoying stutters. And that's indeed also later on in the benchmark results, you will see this as well, but the 1% lows have improved even more than average frame rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also where, to your point, enjoying a game and being able to fully enjoy it to every extent of what the game has to offer at full fidelity with all the settings cranked up. With the 9800 X3D, that makes it just a lot easier, where you can avoid those dips, those stutters, and
it basically gives you
really
more
locked in the game.
Yeah, more stable performance is kind of what you get in terms of gameplay, I would say. Let's see, we have more questions. I see some people discussing some stuff in chat. I don't know what, Ducky, I don't know what your question was. Oh, I see. Well, when will the new Godlike come to USA MSI store? Oh, I don't know for every region in the world. So best to contact them to see when it will be available. That's usually the recommendation. Check with your local reseller to see when they expect stock for certain products. Because, we don't know for every individual region when it will arrive. So, best to check with the USA MSI store in this case. So you already talked about, well, the higher frequencies, of course, but also the overclocking, and that has to do a lot with that second generation 3D V-cache and the way it basically guarantees better heat dissipation. And on our MEG X870E Godlike, we already had an extremely high frequency with this. And this is something that wouldn't be possible with the 7000 series, right?
I'm not saying that it wouldn't be possible, but if you're talking about X3D specifically, then yes, that's obviously a very, very difficult.
But I think this
journey.
high,
So 7.2, I mean, that's just fantastic, right? I mean, what overclockers have been achieving over the last couple of days is truly amazing.
Of course, this is on LN2.
Yeah, this is liquid nitrogen, XOC, and but seeing this being enabled on an X3D CPU from AMD Ryzen, that's just fantastic. And I think that's everybody's wildest dream back in the day when we first did the 5800 X3D, to finally have some overclocking potential and be able to play with it. And whether you're using air cooling, high-end, or water cooling, you still have some room to play with if you're an enthusiast. So I mean, it's just an exciting time for having those gains out of the box, but also being able to play more around with it and even potentially unlock more performance, right? So
because that was sometimes people who enjoyed a bit of overclocking. For them, sometimes the 7000 series X3D were not the most interesting ones, because of course you were limited to that first generation 3D V-cache, which kind of limited frequency overclocking. But now with the 9000 series, it's way more possible. Yeah,
anything's possible basically. It's just depends on where your bottlenecks are, right? Is it overclocking in terms of silicon lottery? Is it the cooling solution that you use, or you obviously I'd suggest if you're trying to get into overclocking, then these numbers may seem really, really high, and which is true, because this is obviously with extreme cooling solutions. But
this
really
is basically
fun
to set records. This is not something you will run at home 24/7.
No.
But still, you can overclock it and run it overclocked 24/7. Of course, depending on your cooling, depends what you can do. Also depends on your exact CPU, of course. No individual CPU is ever the same. So one CPU will clock slightly higher than the other. That's always the case with overclocking, so it's always a bit of trial and error and see what your CPU can do. But I think that's also partly the fun of it. Yeah,
exactly, and that's what we're now doing with the 9800 X3D. And so if you're a novice overclocker or more experienced, you now have the room and ability to play around with the product, which is really cool if you're more into PCs.
And I know you are into overclocking, so you're also going to try this out?
Absolutely. So if I find some time, then obviously it's the season of early dark days and
getting colder. Also
colder.
helps with overclocking.
Yes, it helps. So
just open the window.
yeah, exactly. And you know, hopefully some more time in the coming months to play around with it, and I can't wait. So yeah.
Nice. See another question in chat. Xian is asking, may you say when the worldwide release is? Well, this actually already is released.
It's on shelf since last week on Thursday, November 7th. So.
It may be off shelf already in your region because they are selling quite quickly. So also best to check with your reseller if they still have stock or when they expect stock again.
Yeah.
It may be difficult in certain regions to get one at the moment because there is quite a demand for it.
There
right
is
now, right?
very, really high demand for this product, and obviously we anticipated that with overclocking enabled, the improvements that we saw, that we would need to build more than we've done before. We've seen the recent excitement for the 7800 XRD, especially the last year or so, right, for that product. It started to ramp, and then we are trying our best to get weekly more volume on shelf, and we should see that. Okay, then let's have a look at a bit of the performance, because you also tested this against your previous generation, so the 7800 X3E. Can you maybe explain a little bit about what we see on this slide and the performance gains that we see? So this is a geo-mean, obviously, for the new 9800 XRD against the Ryzen 7 7800 XRD from the previous gen. The geo-mean is 8% average generational game performance uplift. But as you look at the bars on the far right, you can see, depending on the title and depending on the settings that you play with, you'll be able to get 25, 30%, sometimes even more.
And this is all still stock, right?
This is
not overclocked.
Absolutely stock, drop in CPU from the shelf, and then just update your BIOS, obviously, before doing that, which is always smart to do. Make sure that you have the latest version of Windows installed, and the chipset drivers, etc. But other than that, it's just ready to go out of the gate. Yeah.
Nice.
And so then the geo-mean that we saw is 8% on the games we tested. And obviously, as I mentioned before, go check out your favorite reviewer in your region, or outside your region, or more global. Just go check out the games that you like, that you play, and then check the generational uplift there, or compare to the competition. Yeah.
Before we continue, let's maybe do our first giveaway for today.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't participated yet, go to msi.com/2/insider, or if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, you can also follow the direct link that our bot puts in the chat once every 5 minutes. That will lead you to Gleam. Within Gleam, you can perform certain actions. The more actions you perform, the bigger chance you have to win. And my Wi-Fi is being difficult, so let me quickly grab a cable so I can actually draw our first winner. Would be helpful.
That's how you game, with a cable, not
Indeed.
with Wi-Fi.
Let's see. Yes, we have internet again.
Yep.
So we're giving away game codes for Star Wars Outlaws. I will do a first drawing now. I will do several throughout the stream. Once you're signed up, no need to do anything anymore. Even if you don't win the first time, you don't have to sign up again. You will automatically be included in the next drawings as well. And our first winner of today... Let's start with one instead of 10.
No, just give 2 winners.
I will do more.
All right.
Okay, the honor is
Should
all yours.
Announce the winner. Nickname is Luca Angel.
Congratulations. You won a game code for Star Wars Outlaws. So please keep an eye out on your mailbox. Then we will email the code to you in the coming days with some instructions on how to redeem it.
Congratulations, Luca.
Congrats. Then we'll head back into it.
Yeah.
Hello, PowerPoint. Are we still alive? I guess not. But I saw a good question, because some people were already speculating about Ryzen 9s, because of course you launched a Ryzen 7. Do you already have a sneak peek, or still unknown what people can expect?
Unfortunately I cannot comment on unannounced products or plans that we have for products, or existing or non-existing products. So unfortunately, sorry guys.
So they could well come at a certain point, or maybe not. You'll have to wait and find out to see what will be the case. My PowerPoint just completely crashed, so let me see if I can kill this and get this back up again.
Fortunately, the stream is still up, so that's
stream
good.
is still up. As long as the stream PC doesn't crash, then it's fine.
Can you guys still hear us? Say yes in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, at least it worked to shut down PowerPoint.
Force close, yeah.
Yes. Now let's see if I can get it back up. What we were looking at, the performance. So you tested this against, of course, the 7800 X3D. Can you maybe also tell a little bit about how this compares to the current 9000 series without the X3D? What can people expect in gaming there? So for example, if you compare 9800 X3D to, for example, the 9700X.
Yeah. No, I think you would best to be checking your reviews, your favorite reviewer for that, because I don't have the numbers top of my head, but obviously it's significantly more than the gen over gen versus 7800 X3D. I think some numbers I saw floating around were like between 30 and 50% faster than, for example, the 9700X and the 9800X, but also the 7700X if we're going like for like with 8 cores. And in some games even up to 80% faster. So
and that really has to do with the fact that certain games benefit so much from 3D cache.
Certain games benefit more from 3D cache being added, and the resolution that you play it at, or the rendering it does, where it really likes having more cache at their disposal. And then, yeah, other games might not see such a big gain over the previous generation. But overall, I'd say it's well within double digits compared to the regular 9000 series. Obviously, 8 core versus 8 core. Yeah, it is simply the fastest gaming product that we have today, the Ryzen 7 9800 X3D.
Yeah. For the 9000 series, without the X3D, you also have a nice promotion running, right? Can you maybe tell a little bit more about that? Later on we'll have a slide if my PowerPoint lives again. But maybe you can already briefly introduce.
Yeah, so we went a little bit early this season. We wanted everybody to,
send us early this year.
Yeah, send us early. And so we had some nice promotions announced earlier, starting on the Ryzen 9s and all the way down to the Ryzen 5 parts as well, between $50 and $30 depending on the part. So that's a nice discount to have, in your shopping cart. Obviously, that'll leave you some space for maybe another SSD or something like that. Just right in time before the holiday season, obviously, when you start hopefully having more time to play games and being able to download some new titles, or if you have a large backlog of titles that you still need to play, being able to upgrade to a new CPU and being able to enjoy higher FPS and more enjoyable gaming experience, then obviously this is the best time of year, right? Q4.
So is this a worldwide promotion as well?
Yes, yeah. All the 9000 series worldwide available. Those promotions are equal in every region.
And it's a temporary thing? So do people have to run to the stores?
We've enabled the promotion for now. I need to double check on the end date on that, but so I'm not sure if we communicated an end date, but we can check. And
it also differs per model what the discount is, right?
Yes.
So usually the higher end the model, the more discount as well.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see if we have any more questions. I see a question on X. Will MSI have X3D boost for 670E chipsets like the 870E? Well, those are two different ones, but yes, we do have a special function available. We will talk about that later as well. We'll talk a bit about our Godlike and about this special X3D BIOS function that we also have introduced recently. I see questions about Cinebench scores. Later on, we will also benchmark this CPU, so you will get all the detailed scores. We also did a lot of testing beforehand with different models, so we can also compare it to other models, see how they compare against each other. But yeah, as mentioned before, this isn't really a Cinebench CPU. This is a CPU meant for gaming, and that is where you will see the biggest gains. Of course, it is still an 8-core CPU. For an 8-core CPU, it is still very fast in Cinebench.
Absolutely.
But Cinebench scales perfectly well with more cores. So this will never be even close to, let's say, a 9950X or whatever,
or
9900X, because they have like 16 and 12 cores respectively. Those will always be a lot faster in those kind of applications. So if you do a lot of 3D rendering, if you do a lot of productivity workloads, then a Ryzen 9 will benefit you more than 3D cache.
Yeah, if your main workload, or let's say main usage for your desktop PC is gaming, then this part is absolutely the best choice, I would say. And then if you do some office-related work or productivity on the side, and having an 8-core is sufficient for you, then the 9800 X3D is a perfect fit for your machine. If the majority of your tasks feature productivity workloads or applications that you run, and you do some gaming on the side, the 9950X and the 9900X may be a better choice for you, but that really depends on what you run, The time you spend.
What's your primary workload as well? Indeed. If, for example, let's say you use your PC for productivity workloads for work all day, and then you want to play like an hour of gaming in the evening.
Yeah.
Then probably
that's when we saw even Threadripper being used, right? I mean, still HEDT or Pro, up to 96 cores Threadripper parts. Even sometimes people play games on those things, and obviously those are not the fastest in gaming, but they're still more than sufficient for gaming. So,
and it all depends also on if you just want to play a casual game a bit, or if you're more serious about it and want to play competitively. So that all matters quite a lot. Let's see if because I am rebooted, but it may be hidden in my capture card. Let's see if I can get my PowerPoint back. Is it on the left? Is it on the right? Let's see if this works.
Well, PC Master Race desktop usage next time, Michiel.
Wait. There we go. Look, we are there, but we're there on the capture card.
And now we got our
okay. Let me see if I can. Look, there's a cat.
Yeah.
Cats always do well. So viewing numbers now go tremendously up.
Yeah, agree.
So my PowerPoint was hidden on the wrong screen.
It's much better to look at the cats than us anyway. So.
Okay, then we go back outside of this and we go back to So chat, you decide. X3D or cats?
Let's go to the promo slides just to make it clear for everybody where we have the promos running. $50 on the 9950X, and then 9900X, 9700X, and 9600X. So 12, 8, and 6 cores respectively get a $30 discount. Starting from about 4 weeks ago almost. Yeah. So good time if you're eyeing for an upgrade, I would say.
For everyone already on the AM5 platform, let's have a quick look at the, because your product stack on AM5 has expanded quite a lot over recent times.
Well, it's time, right? I mean, we've been doing AM4 for almost 8 years now, right? It's getting crazy.
Yeah,
so
AM4 for
that's a legendary platform right now, and obviously AM5 is growing. We see demand growing for certain parts. We see now with the X3D launch on Zen 5, then obviously I would say almost completing our portfolio there for anybody looking for the best gaming experience, but also the best productivity experience on the mainstream desktop platform. Then Socket AM5 offers just that. Additionally, with a lot of connectivity as well, right? With PCIe Gen 5, DDR5 for the fastest memory, but now with also USB 4 on the X870E and X870 platform. So I guess you guys will start talking about that later as well. Yeah. But basically, there's an AM5 CPU available for everybody. If you're on a budget, if you're looking for the best price performance, especially with the promos going on right now, or if you're simply looking for the highest core counts or the latest and greatest gaming performance.
With stronger integrated graphics.
Exactly, and they are integrated.
If you don't want to use a separate graphics card, like an 8700G, for example.
Exactly, and or if you're doing something just for office-related workloads or business workloads, then obviously we have the Pro parts available as well, more commercial-oriented parts. Yeah. But yeah, that basically means we are completing our stack with our 9000 series, 7000 series, and 8000 series, all about AI, obviously with that built-in NPU. So basically meeting every single demand that's there in the market today with our strong Socket AM5 platform. Nice, nice.
So a lot to choose from nowadays.
Yep.
So another question in chat earlier, Windows 10? No, I got forced into Windows 11 with my work notebook. No, I get that Windows 11 has some benefits, but I'm always pretty hard to move to a new operating system. So I hung on to Windows 10 as long as I could until the IT department forced me to go Windows 11. What do you use?
Windows 11.
Windows 11.
Yeah, because you got all sorts of great upgrades for
like the latest performance upgrades
VCAS products and things like that. Chiplet design, obviously, Windows 11 just helps delivering optimal performance there. Yeah. Without having to go through all the workarounds and things like that. So I migrated fairly quickly, and I was also more skeptical.
I'm always very conservative, user interface wise.
Yeah, well, that didn't really change much for me, so I decided to almost day one make the update or make the jump to Windows 11. But yeah, we absolutely recommend that as well, for especially with X3D and multi-CCD processors, right? So yeah.
Action Brother actually has a question in Twitch that ties into that. Is 11 so much faster than 10 nowadays? It depends on the exact workload, but like Martijn already mentioned, the latest upgrades and also proper scheduling and stuff those usually come to Windows
Especially
11
for gaming.
nowadays. Yeah, especially for gaming.
Yeah.
So if you have dual CCD, where especially in certain situations, a certain CCD is quite a bit faster in certain tasks than the other one. So let's say the 7000 series X3D, where you have one 3D cache CCD, one non-3D cache CCD. One CCD is a lot faster in productivity workloads, the other one is a lot faster in gaming. So you want to have that properly scheduled to always get the best performance.
Yeah.
And then, yes, there it can make a difference.
And besides security patches, obviously the performance and stability patching that goes into Windows 11 is much more to date than the Windows 7, Windows 10, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. We have one last slide, and this is a quick overview.
This is the closer, basically. So yeah, that's the Ryzen 7 9800.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. So 8 cores, 16 threads, much as you're used to with our 7800 X3D as well, but now a 5.2 gigahertz max boost, 4.7 gigahertz base clock, and still the 104 megabytes of cache. The story is not being told on this slide particularly. That's basically going back a couple of slides when talking about 3D cache. That's the major difference this generation. And obviously having Zen 5 cores on here as well. So that really contributes to a significant gen over gen performance upgrade. Yeah.
One thing I also want to point out is 120 watt TDP. So like on paper, it is identical to the 7800 X3D.
TDP wise, yeah.
TDP wise. But we already saw that they behave a bit differently, but that has to do with the cooling, right?
Right, because we are now allowed to open all registers basically and give you more performance, and especially when you install, let's say, more enthusiast cooling solutions, then obviously we want to reward you with that. And so we can boost higher. We're hundreds of sensors in these chips. If they detect that there's some headroom left, they will try and force as much performance as possible within a reasonable power draw, obviously. But yeah, it's slightly higher than, we no longer have those bottlenecks like we had on the 7800 XD.
Yeah, because I think when I fiddle around with the 7000 series, I don't think it ever reached TDP because, of course, you run into certain limits. But now, because you don't run into those limits anymore, it is much better at higher sustained clock frequency.
And don't forget, this is a gaming-oriented CPU, and during gaming workloads, you're never going to see anywhere close to
you will never get the 100% load on all the cores.
It's running cool, it's quiet, and if you then compare that, obviously, with other gaming CPUs without 3D cache, there's not much difference there, to be honest. But the biggest difference that you'll start to see is obviously when you're going to do synthetic benchmarking and things like that. Where
when you put everything under load, it can basically boost further.
It can boost further because we basically created more headroom by moving the 3D cache below the CCD this time, and again rewarding you with better heat dissipation and rewarding you with installing a better cooler.
See, another question in chat. Action Brother is asking, but can it run GTA 6? That remains to be seen.
Is that game even announced?
I don't know, actually. I think there was
some excitement.
I have seen some news about it, but I don't know if there has been like an official,
like a launch date, or
could be. But I do remember with
pretty
GTA
sure
5, it took a long time before we could play it on PC.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I mentioned I was playing Red Dead Redemption 1 last night until too late.
That's why he still looks a little bit tired.
I'm a little bit tired because I finally had some time after a late night job meeting. Decided before going to bed, play some Red Dead Redemption, and then I found myself at 2 p.m. looking like, or 2 a.m. 2 a.m. looking like maybe I should go to bed. But this is when I finally had some time to play some games, and I'm thoroughly enjoying something that I've kicked off like 14 years ago or something on one of the consoles. And it reminded me of a time where I had my firstborn, shout out to Kirsten, when she was born. Paternity leave obviously is great, so especially when a cool game comes out. So it's that time of year when you have something exciting coming out and you finally get some free time to play, and then you completely forget about time, right? And you start playing. So
and soon you will get to enjoy it on
9800 X3D. Yeah, it was already running fine on the 4K screen, but I was doing couch gaming on a small form factor desktop on the 7800 X3D actually. But yeah, let me upgrade that to 9800 X3D and let you know the performance difference. I'll do that.
Nice. Senpai Waifu is asking, hello, what did I miss? A lot, but I see you're watching on YouTube, so you can basically drag the slider back and then you can view everything we talked about, because Martijn explained a lot about this new 9000 series X3D with the second generation 3D cache. So thank you so much. I will draw another winner. I will not do this on my notebook anymore.
We'll do two, right? You promised. 2 winners this time.
No, we will do more throughout the stream. Otherwise, we already run out at the beginning of the stream.
I tried,
That would
guys.
be
I
epic.
tried for you.
He tried,
so,
yeah. Let's see. Can you read this?
It says 1 winner. Yes,
there
I can.
we go.
Does it say Libya Jones?
I think it looks like it.
Libya Jones.
Libya Jones, congratulations. You also won a game code for Star Wars Outlaws. We will also email the code to you in the coming days with some instructions on how to redeem it. If you haven't participated yet, make sure to do so. Follow the link that our bot puts in the chat once every 5 minutes and compete. Martijn, thank you so much for all your insight today.
Thank you.
I will pull the chat back over.
And I hope you guys have a great continuation of the stream, and looking forward to what Ruud's going to talk about.
Yeah, so, because now Ruud will join us, and we will do some benchmarking with this new CPU.
Awesome.
We will compare it to some other CPUs that he tested before. We will do some gaming comparisons, but also some synthetic comparisons, power consumption comparisons. So a lot still to talk about.
Yeah.
A lot still to talk about.
And don't forget the giveaway, yeah?
Of course not.
Oh, okay, good.
Of course not. We will definitely still do the giveaway.
All right.
Thank you so much, Martijn.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
So Martijn will quickly swap with Ruud, and then it's time for some nice benchmarks.
Out with the old and in with the new.
Apart from these benchmarks, we will also give you a more detailed look of the MEG X870E Godlike motherboard. So a while ago we already did a live stream about X870 and X870E, where we've shown you different motherboards. So we talked about our Pro series, our MEG series, our MPG series. So for example the Carbon that we're also running on this test bench today. But we didn't have the Godlike yet. But today we do. So we'll definitely take a look at that first. I quickly want to show you our current lineup in the X800 series AMD. Of course, it all is AM5. So also this new 9800X3D, you can still run in older motherboards. So if you, for example, already have a B650 motherboard or an X670, X670E, all those kind of motherboards after a BIOS update can run this new CPU. It is important, however, that you have the correct BIOS. Hello, hello, Ruud. Welcome, welcome. Let me switch your name tag. Okay. There we go. BIOS versions. Yeah, you need to go a little bit higher.
How do we get it up?
Ruud also knows a lot about this, about the BIOS versions. But BIOS versions are very important to get support for new CPUs, but also to get certain feature updates. So this is an overview of the latest BIOS versions for the AM5 platform motherboards. So with AGISA 1.2.0.1. There we introduced a feature where you could basically set the TDP for the Ryzen 7 and 5 models to 105 watt. And especially in productivity workloads, you could see much better performance there, up to 13% increase. This was also officially introduced by AMD in AGISA code 1.2.0.2. So basically in our BIOS it was already one version earlier, but also official now in the beta BIOS from AMD. And then the latest version, AGISA 1.2.0.2a, that one also is optimized for this new 9800X3D CPUs. So you already did some testing with this.
I did a lot of testing in a very short time.
Yeah.
I got the CPU yesterday morning, and yeah, here we are today. So now we have 2 CPUs because Martijn brought another one.
Yeah.
And yeah, they basically perform almost equally.
We can quickly show one of them here. So on the outside you cannot see it as an X3D CPU.
Yeah,
it's maybe a little bit hard to read.
Focus,
it just looks like a normal AM5 CPU, like you know AM5 CPUs.
Exactly, yeah.
But on the inside it's definitely different with the 3DV cache. Before we go into all the performance stuff, let's have a look at our Godlike.
Godlike, yeah.
That is quite a big and heavy motherboard.
Very heavy one.
Oh.
And also a dangerous one because it cut my finger.
Yeah, you actually got wounded by the Godlike. Yeah, that has to do with the fact that this motherboard has a FinStack heatsink right there with the wavy fins.
And I was carrying 3 motherboards, so
yeah, if you touch that with your knuckles, then it can indeed hurt you. Let's maybe start with some peeling, because I left this all very fancy for you guys. Let me move a little bit in this direction. So we have a lot of peels. Ruud, maybe you can help me out. We're going to
Okay,
peel all
yeah.
the plastic off so people can properly see this.
Can
Guys, this will take half an hour. Because there are a lot of peels, because it's a huge motherboard. Of course, it's an extended ATX motherboard.
And they've even done individual buttons.
Oh, it's so shiny though.
Foil, extra foil.
So many peels. There we go.
M.2.
That was a good peel.
That one's good. Yeah, you could hear that.
Yeah. And there we go.
Maybe this one also good. Yeah.
More peels. There we go. This is the last one. And then
Wow, shiny.
it indeed is shiny. So let me show you guys what it looks like without all the peels. So this is the MEG X870E GODLIKE motherboard. So basically the flagship motherboard for AM5 CPUs. Before we already talked about the overclocking record with the 9800 X3D. That was also done on one of these motherboards. So very high-end, very big, very heavy motherboard. So Ruud, how heavy is it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you explain how heavy it is?
It's very heavy, but I haven't weighed it on a machine. I'm not a very
scale,
good gauge of weight measurement, so
How would you can say,
if
is
you
it
put it on the scale,
a
then
little bit
it's-
heavy?
yeah.
Is it very heavy?
Yeah, it's one of the heaviest I've touched. Yeah, I think it's 1.5 graphics card. This one,
1.5.
a 4090.
Now let's talk a little bit about the specifications, because also there is a reason that this is very heavy, because it is packed with features, but also just the general specifications are extremely high end. So this one has 24 100 amp smart power stages specifically for the CPU. So also extreme overclocking, like demonstrated with the Ryzen 7 9800 X3D, but also if you want to extremely overclock a Ryzen 9 16-core processor, you can also definitely do that on this motherboard. It has a 10-layer PCB, which also helps you a bit with memory frequencies. Later we will talk a little bit more detail about what you can expect on this motherboard. PCB is also 2-ounce thickened copper, so it helps with the cooling. And it has OC engine. Ruud, can you briefly explain what OC engine is? Because that's not something that you will find on all boards.
What is OC engine? Good question.
The external clock gen one.
Yeah, but do we need one on AMD?
It depends on what you want to do. You can fine tune it. But yeah, on Intel, it's more beneficial because of the non-K. Of course, with
non-Ks,
AMD,
yeah.
you can basically overclock everything. So you can also overclock through the multiplier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the base of the bus clock overclocking.
But basically, it
might
gives
give
you a little bit more
little
control.
yeah. Could give you the last little bit of percentage out of the CPU, but
Yeah, if you want to do like very precise overclocking, then you can use the OC engine. In terms of memory, already touched on it. This is a 10-layer PCB. That also helps with the signal quality of the DDR5 slots on this motherboard. And this means that you can reach memory frequencies of 9,000 mega transfers per second or even higher. Of course, you cannot achieve this when you fill up all memory slots. This is like when you're really pushing it for the highest frequency. So when you use a single DIMM, pushing it to the max. And even then, it also very much depends on the memory module. It depends on the quality of the memory controller on the CPU.
Yeah.
But the motherboard by itself can reach these kind of frequencies. So if you want to do, if you want to put overclocking records with the AMD 9000 series CPUs, then this would be the go-to model because of all of its PCB layers. We already had a question about this before. But here it is, the X3D gaming mode. And this is specifically something you will find in the latest BIOS, right?
yeah, it's very new. Introduced this week, at least in our BIOSes.
And it is not only for the 9000 series, right?
No, actually you can use it on almost any CPU. I'm not sure if you can do it. Yeah, you could do, and any AM5 CPU could work, because if it's a single CCD, then it will just turn off the SMT. For Intel, that's called hyper-threading. So
yeah, for AMD, it's simultaneous multi-threading. Yeah.
So an 8-core will behave as a 16-core in Windows. So
that's with SMT on.
That's the SMT part.
Yeah.
So if you turn it off, you just get 8 threads instead of 16 with the 8-core. So that's what it does. If you have a 2 CCD part,
so Ryzen 9s,
for example, the 950 or the 9900X. Both of those have one CCD that's clocked a little bit higher, and that's the preferred core to game on or do any latency stuff on it. So the best clock core is your friend.
And you can also use it on Ryzen 9s from the 7000 X3D series. So like a
the X3D is also.
So 7950 X3D, for example, with dual CCD. How does it behave then?
So the 9000 series 2 CCD parts, so both Ryzen 9s, they use core parking, as they call it, and also the Ryzen 9s with X3D cache on the 7000 series. So that's the 7900 X3D and the 7950 X3D. Those ones also have core parking because you want to run the game on the CCD with the extra 3D cache on it.
Yeah. So
That's
this is specifically a feature for gaming. So if you want to get the best productivity performance, don't use this, because when you, for example, switch off SMT, simultaneous multi-threading, you will lose performance in productivity workloads. Yeah. So this is really like a gaming-only feature. For productivity, it will hurt your performance. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah. But
for this CPU only, because it's only the simultaneous multi-threading is lost, so you will.
Here you don't switch off a CCD.
But you will lose about 30%.
Which is still a lot.
But if you do it on a 7950 X3D, you'll lose 60%.
Yeah, because you disable 8 of the 16 cores, and then you
half of the cores, half of the threads.
The threads as well. Yeah. So you will go from 16 threads, 32 or 16 cores, 32 threads. You go to 8 cores, 8 threads. So big difference in terms of productivity.
And that's losing 60% of performance in Cinebench, or any multi-threaded cores like Blender or rendering or whatever.
Yeah. I see a question for you, Ruud. Corky Cube is asking Twitch chat. Ruud, should there be a spacer opposite of the bottom stack to prevent IHS warping?
I don't get what they mean. What do you mean?
A spacer opposite of the bottom stack? You mean the IHS of the CPU? Like the integrated heatsink? Let's see. Julian is asking, on which motherboard models is this X3D gaming mode available?
I'm not sure, because
this is like a very new BIOS feature. So
I received the BIOS for this motherboard, and
this is X870E Carbon, by the way.
I think I received it on Friday last week or something like that. So I started testing this week, and well, it does turn off the multi-threading or the dual CCD and the simultaneous multi-threading. I didn't see any benefit for it, at least not on the 9800 X3D. There was a small,
which also makes sense because it's single CCD CPU, of course.
Small benefit on the 7950 X3D, and
which is a dual CCD.
Yeah, and I didn't also have much performance gain on the 9950X. So actually, I got a performance regression in games with the 9950X. So your mileage may vary, I would say.
So it is something to test out, and it also depends on the situation, right?
Yeah, and maybe also we didn't have the games that really responded well to multi-threading being disabled. There's probably games around that will benefit from it, but not the ones I tested.
But basically, for this BIOS function and the BIOS version, of course, we need time to develop this for all the different motherboards. Yeah. So it will be available now for certain models. For others, it's still in development. But in the end, this should come to also 600 series, right?
Yeah, you could do that too. Yeah. Why not? I think you can. You can also do it manually because our BIOS has all the knobs.
This is basically just a quick and easy way to do it. But this is something you can do.
It's like a preset, and you can do it yourself as well. I've been testing with that as well, and also had very similar results. So.
So switching CCDs off, switching SMT off, those are all features that are also individually available. I
expected they would do something else, but that's basically it, at least what I could detect. And the performance was very similar to the manual settings I did, so I don't think they had any other stuff changed with this preset.
Then let's have a look at easy OC tuning, because these are a couple of features that can make quite a big difference. Can you maybe briefly explain them and what do they do?
Which one?
So we have the performance switch.
The performance switch, I'm not sure. We talked about that one during the 96 and 9700.
Basically, it
X
keeps the
launch.
frequency higher.
Yeah, but I forgot what it did.
We should test more with that one to see what it does.
Yeah.
PBO limit, the thermal point. This is very clear, and this is, I think, a very
This
useful
one.
one.
I even used it on a system for an end user.
Mm-hmm.
And I just set it to 75 because what CPU was on it? I think it was a 7700X.
Yeah.
And if I put 75 on it, there's just like a thermal limit. And at 75, the fans were nice and quiet. And I would lose only like 1 point something percent in Cinebench. So,
And it will be
other
more
games,
efficient as
yeah,
well.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Because do you know what
and then I didn't have to set the fan profile because it was quiet anyway.
So you know what the thermal limit for this new 9800 X3 is?
95 degrees.
95 degrees.
Yeah, so not 89 like the previous one.
Yeah, so slightly higher. Has to do,
Yeah,
of course, with that new second generation
Yeah.
30V cache heat dissipation improvement.
But I didn't see it go to 95, only if you use like a very small cooler.
Yeah.
But it's drawing up to around 145-ish watts on this motherboard and with this cooler. So
And of course, that will go down when you set the thermal point lower.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, eventually that will lose a bit of performance, especially productivity workloads. Because
but
you
if you
basically
set it to 85, you will probably
then you
be
will barely
sane,
lose. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you set it to 65, then of course you will limit how far it can boost a little bit.
Yeah, the boost will.
But
drop,
you will
yeah.
make it more efficient.
Probably yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't tested that part yet.
Yeah, it's always a bit of fine tuning to see where the efficiency sweet spot is, and usually with a bit of fine tuning you can make your CPU quite a bit more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
This is a way that is like very easily accessible to try to see if it can make your system more efficient while barely losing any performance in certain situations.
But we did bury these presets or PBO presets in quite a layer of menus. So
So this is in the
prefer this one to be more easily accessible.
Yeah. Because now it is like in the more advanced PBO settings.
Yeah.
So they're in
so
the
you
program
first have to
menu.
go to advanced menu. We'll show the BIOS in a minute.
Yeah.
But
Then we'll,
but yeah, go to the advanced BIOS and then go to overclocking, then go to CPU configuration and PBO settings, and then there's multiple menu layers, I would say.
Then there is
We'll
the
show.
config TDP setting, and that one talks about wattages, but also amps.
Very similar to the thermal point or thermal limit. This
But
one
it
is
works
a
in a
power
different
limit.
way, yeah.
I also suggested this one, but I don't see it in this BIOS. So it was there on the X600 series, but I don't see it here. So they might have forgotten to put it in.
Yeah, so we're still
I
running
haven't complained
beta BIOSes as well.
about
But,
it yet, I guess.
Then there is performance preset with PBO auto and PBO enable. Can you briefly explain what it does and how it behaves when you select one or the other?
Yeah, I think it's a poor choice of naming. That's my first impression. PBO auto, nobody knows what you mean. Basically, it's just BIOS defaults. That would be a much better name. And PBO enable, it doesn't say what it really does. So what it does is it says the curve optimizer. If you want to do some dynamic undervolting, then you can use curve optimizer to lower basically do a negative offset on your voltages.
So basically, you're undervolting your CPU.
Undervolting the CPU, so it won't get as hot and might boost a little bit higher. That's basically what you want to.
It maybe sounds a little bit counterintuitive because you think maybe if I undervolt it, I lose performance, but it's actually the opposite.
Yeah, the hotter it gets, then also will lose more boost. That's basically
you keep it cooler so it can
happens,
sustain the higher frequencies for longer and basically give you better performance.
But it's very minor, so the curve optimizer, if people have played with it, usually you will try to aim for something like -30. And this one is only -5, so that's very, very minimal.
Very limited.
So this setting doesn't do much.
But this is like a very...
At least on this CPU,
Yeah.
that's the one I tested.
-5
with
is
this
indeed
motherboard.
very limited, but it is of course the risk if you go further, certain CPUs, and it depends on the quality of your specific
it's
CPU.
silicon rotary.
It may become unstable. So for example, you
Yeah.
mentioned -30. You need quite a good CPU in order to reach that.
Yeah.
Also usually differs a bit. I think
Yeah,
with like a
different
Ryzen
models,
5,
yeah.
it's usually easier to go further than with a
and
Ryzen
with the
9.
7 also, I think
Yeah.
a Ryzen 9 with 2 CCDs is
Yeah.
going to be more challenging, yeah.
And
At
this
least
is-
in the 7000 series that was the case, yeah. So
Yeah.
9000 series I have not tried it yet.
So this is indeed a very safe and
Only
easily
tried this
accessible way.
CPU, yeah.
But
to figure out what it does, yeah.
yeah, but definitely if you want to do this manually, you may be able to go even further depending on
Yeah.
your CPU. You can try fiddle around with it, see what your CPU can also do.
Yeah. For the
Um,
people who want to tinker with it and try to get more performance out of it, this is the first step, and then the next step is probably also in your
This is more like
presentation.
the foolproof
yeah,
method.
this
and
one
then,
is a very safe one.
yeah, and then you can
Yeah.
make it more advanced if you know what you're doing. But keep in mind, you can make your system unstable.
There's
with it.
more presets in the menus,
Yeah,
which are close to the thermal limit or presets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
Then again, we also have memory triad with all the different presets.
Mhm.
As well as high efficiency mode. And high efficiency mode also has different
Yeah.
presets. Basically that will kind of optimize your sub timings, and in certain games that actually gives quite a bit extra performance.
Yeah, it also lowers the latency. If you do like a AIDA 64 memory benchmark, then the latency will also drop with the high efficiency one.
Yeah.
The self refresh you can postpone, or the timing you make longer, or and then it will not impact the performance that much. So the self refresh is not intervening with your benchmark and also with your gaming. So
Is this also a risk in terms of stability?
not really, no.
No?
I've not seen any stability issues yet. There might be some because the first one, I'm not sure what the name is, Relax, right?
Yeah, you have relax, balance, tighter, and tightest.
Yeah, I think those names are pretty good. These names are much better than the ones on our Intel motherboard. Also complain about that. Anyway, but that's just naming.
But there is also called memory extension mode, and here it's the high efficiency.
yeah, and they have a preset called high efficiency, and this one, the feature is called high efficiency mode. So it's very confusing. Anyway, the relaxed mode is exactly what it does. It has relaxed maybe sub timings, and it only, well, the biggest difference with the normal settings and this setting with relax is the self-refreshed timer is getting much longer. So a longer time between self-refreshes. That's basically what happens. The other ones also have the same self-refresh timer increased, but they also have other stuff tighter. So tighter timings.
Yeah.
That might be more risky, but those tighter timings do not benefit that much. The first one is the most
The
important.
biggest step,
That's the
basically.
biggest step.
Yeah.
All the others, more risk, less reward,
Yeah.
I would say.
So probably your advice would be stick to the safer options.
If you go with the relax and it works for you, you don't have to look further because there's not much to gain anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Theo Mayo is asking in YouTube chat, is it true that the 9800 XRE has a problem running on DDR5 6400?
Nope. The X3D I only ran with 6000.
Yeah, because currently we're running a set of
C30,
G-Skills,
yeah.
DDR5 6000 CL30. So that's the only thing we've currently tested with.
Yeah.
Of course, Ruud will do way more testing with this, but the CPU arrived yesterday, so we had to test what we could, and that was with this memory kit, which is a 6000 kit.
Yeah, you want to run what they call 1-to-1. So that for the AMD CPUs, that's still 6000, maybe 6200. That would still run fine. 6400.
Because otherwise you would get a latency penalty.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
You,
and then you need to bump up the frequency a lot more to balance out the latency part.
And that has to do with the Infinity Fabric of the CPU. Yeah.
Not only the Infinity Fabric, but also they have like the U clock and the memory clock. And if you do it asynchronously, then it will be like a latency penalty.
Yeah, and that's something you would
try
probably
to avoid.
in certain games you will also see that in terms of
but
performance.
if you go above 6200, I would say you cannot get it to run 1-to-1 anymore. So you will need to switch over, and then 64 is the first step, but then the penalty kicks in.
Yeah.
So if you do like 7200, then the penalty is not that hard because you will get extra speed benefit from the higher clocks.
So usually better to run like 6000 or 6200 with lower timings than indeed higher frequencies with higher timing.
I did test the 9950X with both 6400C32 and with 6000C30. So basically the timing or the latency from the memory is the same. Both is 10 nanoseconds. So I also did the gaming benchmarking. So the 6400 was running not synchronously, so not one-to-one, but the penalty was very small. So only the AIDA memory benchmark had a really clear difference, but the gaming I didn't see any difference. At least not the games I tested. But maybe if you test 720p or even lower settings, then
there it could make a difference.
That could make a difference. I don't know.
Alex M is asking, low timings is low latency, right?
Low latency.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it's like the opposite as you have with frequency. Basically, frequency,
timing,
the higher the faster. With timings, it's the lower the latency, the faster it is. So low timings indeed is a lower latency.
It's just waiting times, right? So before data becomes available. Yeah.
Dimit says 6400 is better than 6000. Well, not always.
No, it says more.
Yeah, it is more. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but not specifically better. Yeah. It is more, but not always better.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
6400 is more than 6000. Yeah.
Let's have a look at the cooling of the Godlike, because it's a lot, and you already had an unpleasant experience with the FinStack heatsink.
I don't know exactly how I did it, but I was fumbling with it.
Maybe you can show it in front of the camera. I will move my notebook a little bit to the side, and then we can see if we can properly go through all of this. So you had the negative experience with the wavy FinStack heatsink.
This one's quite pointy, so also very sharp.
That's
it's
the
like
wavy
thing. Yeah, that's the wavy thing. Yeah, that caught me. I don't think we can really get a good angle on it, but yeah, it's very square, or even more than square. So sharper than square. I don't know how to call that. But
and the FinStack heatsink, of course, make sure you have bigger surface area, so you get more efficient heat dissipation as well.
Also, the orientation is good, so always the convection goes up.
Yeah.
So you can maybe look into it.
When you look into it, you may also be able to spot the cross heat pipes in there, because there are actually two heat pipes hidden inside that.
I can see. Yeah, I can see two. Yeah, but I'm not sure if I can angle it the right way for the camera. And it's for me,
it's maybe a bit hard to see. It's all in there. But you may be able to see it. Yeah. It also has MOSFETs or thermal pads on both the MOSFETs, so the smart power stage in this case, and the chokes. Yeah. So maybe we can see that.
Hard to see, I guess, but here you can see the
chokes on the side.
The gray ones, the gray cubic parts. I think these are the chokes. You can see them. And on top of them, they also put like a thermal pad.
It's not really that the chokes themselves produce a lot of heat.
No, I'll put it down.
Because it's mostly the power stages that produce the heat.
The whole area around the power circuit will warm up. And the chokes are made mostly out of metal, because the wire inside is just like a wounded wire, which is thick because there's a lot of current need to go through it. Yeah. So metal conducts heat very well, and that also transfers the heat from the PCB or from the area around the chokes to the heatsink. So the better contact you have to the heatsink, the cooler the PCB will be and the area around the MOSFETs.
Yeah. So now we talked about VRM cooling, but there's a lot more cooling on this motherboard because it also has.
But you also have the backplate.
A backplate,
which also helps with the cooling. Yeah, exactly. So there's also thermal pads between the PCB and the backplate.
Yeah, and completely covering the motherboard. So it's a very big backplate.
Yeah, big.
Which probably also adds some weight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then all the M.2 slots are also covered with heat sinks. And this is the Easy M.2 Shield Frozr 2 system. So
and it's quite thick, so yeah.
It's also a PCI Express Gen 5 slot, the M.2 one.
Also, this one has quite some mass to it. it's very big slab of aluminum, I would say.
And all of them are also double-sided, so you have the cooling on the front and on the motherboard itself.
Yeah, also with thermal pads.
Yeah.
And there's another one here.
And you can remove all of them without any tools.
Yeah.
So no screwdrivers needed to take this off.
It looks like you can add one here, but it's not. It's on this side.
Yeah, that's part of the heatsink. Yeah. So a lot of cooling on this board.
Yeah.
And this is also, this of course is the main contributor to all the way.
for the audio chip.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
there is a metal cover over it.
It's covered, yeah. It looks good.
But this makes it a very heavy motherboard, of course.
Very heavy, yeah.
Yeah. So Ruud is going to put this back together. All the M.2 Shield Frozzer 2s.
And the top one also has LEDs in it, so even a display, I guess.
Yeah, there is also a display.
And there's another display on here, of course.
So you need to put that one. Yeah.
I didn't click it.
Yeah, you have to click. Otherwise you
Click
lose
it
it.
better. Click.
Yeah. Now it's tight. Yeah.
Now it's good.
There we go.
That happens sometimes. But with the green screen, it looks almost transparent, but it's not.
It's a reflection of the green screen, which keeps
So
it up.
maybe
Yeah,
this is
then
better,
you see it. Yeah.
Very shiny. Mirror-like.
Philip says in chat, no, it's broken. No, that's usually when Eric is here. Then things will be broken. With
You
Ruud,
already
it's-
talked about this one? Or-
Not yet, but
Oh,
let's
okay.
first talk about connectivity a little bit, because there is a lot of
microphone is dropping.
connectivity on this board as well. It offers Wi-Fi 7. This is also the faster Wi-Fi 7.
This one, or
Let's first take the slide, and
okay.
then I'll show you up close.
it also bites from the bottom?
Yeah, you have to be careful with
I think
the
it's
sharp.
the chokes. No, it's the capacitors.
So Wi-Fi 7, it is the faster Wi-Fi 7, because Wi-Fi 7 can still be different. So you basically have the 320 megahertz Wi-Fi 7 and the 160 megahertz Wi-Fi 7.
Wi-Fi 7 Lite.
Yeah, you could basically call it that. But this is the faster
There's
way of
different
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi 7's lights as well, because some have Wi-Fi 7 but don't have 6 gigahertz. Don't see it in a Wi-Fi
Can you
card.
still call it Wi-Fi 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
routers are like that.
Okay. I
Or
haven't
mesh
encountered
systems.
those yet, but yeah.
They will come on the market.
Then there is,
Yeah.
of course, wired LAN. So there is 5 gigabit LAN, but also 10 gigabit LAN on this one. So let me quickly show you up close. Then you will see a very filled I/O. And let me check which is which. This one is the 10 gigabit LAN, and that one is the 5 gigabit LAN. So you get dual LAN on this motherboard. Of course, your networking equipment needs to support it as well, if you want to use it.
Can you bundle them to 15 gigabit LAN?
No, I don't think you can in this,
No, I
case.
don't think so.
Storage, the board itself already comes with PCI Express 5.0 M.2, but it also comes with a separate add-in card. Later on we'll show you that one in detail, but that will give you 2 additional PCI Express 5.0 M.2 slots. It offers USB 40 gigabit per second, with here's a USB 4 port, Supercharger Plus on the front USB Type-C. It is something to keep in mind that your case also needs to support it if you want to use it, and if you want to use Supercharger Plus with a lot of power, you do need a separate power connector to attach as well.
Yeah.
So 10 gig LAN, 5 gig LAN. For gaming, it doesn't really matter. It won't make
games.
Downloading games, yes. Playing games, it will not magically make your
Depends
latency
on your
low.
internet connection. Of
Yeah,
course.
it depends on your internet connection. But this is for fast data transfer, then it does make a big difference.
Yeah.
Of course, the other device that you want to use it with also needs to support it. Because if, let's say, your home servers or your NAS is limited to 1 gigabit per second,
Which
then
a
that
lot
will be
of
the
NASs
bottleneck.
are.
Yeah, then that will be the bottleneck. So if you want to use this properly, make sure that the other equipment inside your network is also just as fast. Here the Wi-Fi 7, so you also see a comparison between the different types of Wi-Fi 7. So in certain situations, when you have, let's say, the cheaper version of Wi-Fi 7 or the Wi-Fi 7 Lite, as you call it, that it's not always necessarily faster than, for example, Wi-Fi 6E.
No, theoretically it could go faster. But
Yeah. But like Wi-Fi 6E, for example, always has the 6 gigahertz
Wi-Fi
frequency.
7 does have some intelligent tricks
Yeah.
to make the also the range a little bit longer.
And
So-
also combine the different
Yeah,
frequency bands in terms.
Yeah, also use with different clients.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more.
And also keep in mind that this
Improved.
one has the faster Wi-Fi 7 solution, but again, your network equipment also needs to support this.
Yeah.
So if you have a Wi-Fi 7 Lite,
yeah.
router or anything like that, then you will be limited to the speed of that router. So make sure to properly match the different network devices. Otherwise, you will have a bottleneck and you will not benefit from the faster solution on this board. PCI Express 5.0 storage, so on the board itself, as well as with a separate add-in card. So in total, you can actually get up to 4 Gen 5 M.2 slots.
And
So
then
that's
put
fine.
that in a RAID and then do a crystal disk mark.
We should try that. Do we have that many 5.0 SSDs in the office?
No.
We should see if we can
Yeah.
gather some, because I'm very curious how fast that
Yeah.
will be.
I remember some old live streams we did.
Yeah, we did with,
yeah,
I think, 6 or 7. Yeah.
I think 7 Gen 4.
But that was still Gen 4.
Yeah.
But that was already crazy fast. So just imagine what you can do. Because 4 Gen 5, in theory, could be faster than 7 Gen 4.
Yeah. Always interesting.
Here are the different connectivity. So you can get up to 40 gigabits per second over the USB. Keep in mind that this is always over USB Type-C. On USB Type-A, you will not be able to go faster than 10 gigabit per second.
Yeah.
Of course, depending on the port as well. But the faster ports will always be Type-C. So this is USB 4 in this case. So the USB 4 chip on this motherboard is S-Media 4242. It's also compatible with Thunderbolt 3. It also supports, for example, 15 watt power delivery. On the front Type-C, you can go way higher. More about that later. And you can also get a display signal over the USB Type-C. So that's a cool thing about USB Type-C. You can do a lot of different things with it, and also simultaneously, in terms of power, in terms of data, and in terms of display signal. So this is the Supercharger Plus, and this one, let me quickly show it on the board, is located on the front I/O, and it's also indicated with a sign. So here you see the front USB Type-C header, and it says 60 watt power on top of it. In order to use this, you need to connect on that
The other
side
one, yeah.
the additional power connector, and that will allow you to get 60 watt power delivery over the front USB Type-C. In case, of course, your case can also do this. You need to have proper wiring in your case as well to be able to do this. And then you can, for example, use it to charge devices like notebooks, like if you have an MSI Claw or anything like that, a handheld game device. Certain phones can even charge really fast nowadays over power delivery. So a lot of options there as well. Let me get back to this one. A unique feature of this motherboard is also the easy link, and this is something that's specifically on Godlike. And basically it connects two parts of the motherboard, one on the motherboard, one externally. Let me also show you, because we have this all available right here.
Where did you put it?
Well,
next
let's
to you,
first
yeah.
have a look at this part, because this is the easy bridge on the motherboard itself. So as you can see, some connectors are on this. You can just mount it on. No, you can see it. There is a connector on it. You can just mount it on there, and it will magnetically slide into place. But you can connect this with this connector. It says bridge, and then there is, in the box of the Godlike, there is this separate easy control hub, and this is basically a fan hub. So here you see different PWM fan connectors, and on the other side you will see some more, as well as a couple of addressable RGB connectors. This is magnetic, so you can place this on the back of your motherboard tray. It also has screw holes in it, so you can position it in like a 2.5-inch SSD bay or whatever. These two you can connect using a special cable. And that way you can connect a ton of fans or RGB devices through only a single cable. So for cable management, I think this is really nice, because you can just hide the other box behind your motherboard tray. You're not able to see it. And there we go. So this is how you connect it to this. That one you just mount to your motherboard, of course. And on the other side, you connect that one
to this one.
Yes. And you do have to power this, so that's why it comes with this
okay.
cable. And that comes with 2 SATA connectors. But this is all out of sight because you hide this completely behind your motherboard tray.
Why 2 SATA connectors?
I think because you
One is
can.
not enough.
I think it can do a lot of power over the fan one. So you can, to each individual port, I think you can still attach a lot of fans.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't tested if it also works with one. So if you use fewer fans, if you can also use one. That's an interesting one to test, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know the power spec of the
Yeah.
SATA one, so I have no clue. But
So this is what you would basically stick behind your motherboard tray.
or if you put like a lot of addressable RGB attached to each other, yeah. It has 7 fan connectors though.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah, but cases more have more and more fans.
Yeah,
nowadays, so
some
yeah.
really have a lot.
Yeah. Even have a flow connector for water pump.
Yeah, here you see a quick overview. So 7
yeah,
system
right.
fan connectors. It has 2 addressable RGB. So those are like the 3-pin 5-volt one. It also has 1 old school RGB connector.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
So that is a 4-pin 12-volt one. And then one time the water flow. So yeah, this is the easy link feature. This is specifically on Godlike, so you will not find this on any other motherboards that we have. The other Godlike exclusive is the M.2 Expander Z Slider Gen 5, and I will make a little bit of space that you can demonstrate how this works with.
Oh, really?
Yes. There we go.
Here we go. So this
Let me
is
give you
basically
more
an add-in PCI Express card. PCI Express by 16, but only wired with by 8 lanes. You can see only the half of them are connected.
Yeah.
And it's all metal, so that's excellent for cooling. Also has a small fan in it. Back is just PCB. And on the business end is 2 sliding doors for cartridges, I should call it. And if you
So that's a slider part of the name?
yeah, the slider part, and you will have 1 empty one. This one's not filled. Or did you empty both of them?
No.
Okay.
By the way, by default, if you get this motherboard, they will be both empty. You need to put the SSDs in yourself.
Or
But this one has a
SSD,
inside.
SSD inside, so you can see the golden fingers, as they call them sometimes. And you can open this up. There's a metal cover that holds it in place. Try to not to make it shine too much. And then
Simon
you'll
Fiorini
have-
has a good question, by the way. If I use this expander, do I have 16 lanes to the GPU? No. You will take 8 lanes away and move it to this card.
Yeah.
Um,
So basically,
yeah, it depends. Well, basically, right now you won't really bottleneck any GPU with it because you still have a Gen 5 X8 slot. Of course, with a Gen 4 graphics card, it will be Gen 4 X8. But yeah, for graphics cards, we don't really see any significant performance hit there. So I think even like a 4090, I don't think you barely see a performance hit on 8
No.
lanes, right?
not much at least.
No.
Maybe 1%, but that's about it.
Yeah,
And
but
only
nothing
in-
significant.
I think only in synthetic benchmarks like.
And that is
3D
even
Mark.
still a Gen 4 card. So in the future, when we maybe have Gen 5 graphics cards, then you
Other way around.
still have double the bandwidth again. So basically, Gen 5
need
at
to open
8
that up
lanes
first.
is same bandwidth as Gen 4 with 16 lanes.
I did it wrong, but how it fits. So you have to keep it open while you press it down, and then
And then you
lock
click it in, yeah, and then you lock it in.
You click it in, and then lock the mechanism, then it's fixed.
Yeah.
That's it.
So this is the
But-
M.2 Expander Z Slider Gen 5 card.
And it also has a power connector on,
Yeah.
on this end, because the Gen 5s are usually power hungry, but not that power hungry that you can feed it through the PCI Express.
At this point, no, but for the future, who knows?
It can do 60 watts,
I think what do Gen 5s do nowadays?
probably 7,
Don't they go higher? Because I think
maybe
Gen
8.
4 is
but
going to,
yeah.
yeah. So should be a lot of headroom.
Yeah, and
fan, double ball for
The newer Gen 5s, while they're slightly slower, they also more efficient. So might be more interesting.
Yeah.
With the new Ryzen controller.
So there is a double ball bearing fan in there as well. It's a 70mm fan. And I think there is a dip switch here on the back.
What does it
it's
say?
right there. But that you can switch the fan off. So if you don't need the fan, you can just switch it to off. So it says on or off.
Okay, so it's not auto-detecting the temperature probably.
No, you can manually switch it on.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So also in case you have sufficient cooling already and don't need additional fan, they can make it passive. Okay.
Okay. There's another connector. Maybe it's just for LEDs or something, I don't know.
That's a good question.
Yeah, just saw it.
Yeah, there is another connector. But no idea what that one
There's
is.
no label, so
Yeah.
I have no clue. No. Okay.
Then let's head over to our dynamic dashboard. And dynamic dashboard is basically the LCD screen on this motherboard. And for this one, it is located on the part you can separate of the motherboard. So that is the easy bridge that I have right here. Let me show you. There we go. So there is, well, currently there are fingerprints here, but inside there is a small screen. And you can use this for a lot of different things. So here you see a couple of examples. So you can use this for diagnostic information, so like your CPU temperatures, fan speeds. You can put the time there if you want. You can also use it for BIOS updates, right?
Really?
Yeah, I think it shows like the progress when you're doing a BIOS update on your motherboard. It shows the progress on the screen. You can use it for certain debugging things, but you can also personalize it. So you can put your own picture there. You can put your own moving image. I think even a video.
You can also put the weather on it, right?
Yeah, well, we're located in the Netherlands, so that's usually not a very positive thing to display on your screen.
But stuff
yes,
like that is
it
like
can
dynamic.
do it. Yeah, it can do it.
Yeah.
So a lot of different options, and you can use it in whatever way you prefer.
Yeah.
So located on the right side on the detachable easy bridge part next to the memory
Can you
slots.
flip it upside down? That's a good question from conservative liberalism.
Yes, I can.
No. He's asking, can you flip the display upside down?
Like that.
So if the motherboard is oriented the other way, you can still read the text and stuff.
I know for our liquid coolers that function is available. I haven't tested it with this.
Yeah, but it's a good
That's
question.
a good question.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. But if it is not there, that's definitely something we would feedback. Because I can indeed see that certain specific cases have different design. That's something we should test, because I don't know that from the top of my head if it's also available on this. But I do know we have that function in our liquid cooler, so should also be possible.
Yeah, but with liquid coolers, it's very common that you place it one way or the other way.
Indeed.
So at least for 90
but also
degrees
makes sense
difference. Yeah.
for this.
Yeah.
Okay. So quick overview of this motherboard. Our flagship motherboard, extended ATX. So also make sure your case can support this, because it is a really big motherboard. 24 110 amp smart power stages specifically for the CPU, 10-layer PCB, a lot of fast connectivity, Wi-Fi 7, 10 gigabit LAN, 5 gigabit LAN, USB 4, 40 gigabit per second. You get 60 watt power delivery over the front USB Type-C, dynamic dashboard 3, ton of cooling, easy link with a fan hub behind the motherboard tray, easy M.2 shield frozzer 2, as well as easy M.2 clip 2, easy antenna, easy PCI Express release. That one's actually interesting on this one. We haven't shown that yet. When you look at the easy PCIe release on this board, there we go, you see it right here. So it's the button like you know from our other motherboards. But when you put this on top of it, then there is a button integrated in this that will basically push the button underneath. So you can still use this button while the easy bridge is installed on there.
Yeah.
There are two more buttons here. That's a power button, a reset button, and then the easy PCI Express release button. Let me show you up close. There you see them.
Yeah, it's a bit shiny.
Yeah. You can see my nice fingerprints. So that's how it works. Let me put this aside and then let's do some benchmarking with the Ryzen 7
That's well.
9800
Well,
X3D, because I think a lot of people are very curious about the performance of this CPU.
Yeah, it was reviewed already last week, so
Yeah.
most of the reviews are
Positively
already in.
reviewed. Yeah.
Yeah, very positive. Yeah, very strange review because there were no surprises. Everything worked as intended, so very good. And everybody was very positive about it. So and for good reason. So yeah, the first thing you might ask is how was the performance of the CPU in multi-threaded or workstation kind of loads. Then usually we show the Cinebench. You can also open HW info. Well, first I should.
Some diagnostic information.
Yeah, first show you what system I'm running. So here we go. It's a 9800 X3D CPU. That's also the topic of this live stream, and then running on a MEG X870E carbon Wi-Fi with a latest beta BIOS. The U means it's they added the X3D gaming feature to this one as well. This should be on the website very soon. And we're running an RTX 4090 Supreme X.
So for gaming, this is about as fast as it gets.
Yeah, and the memory is running at, it says 3000, so because it's DDR, it's running.
Good question, Twitch chat. Red Hat over Blondes is asking, can it run Warcraft 3? Good nickname.
Probably not, it's not fast enough. No, what I mean is, we talked about the one-to-one clock ratio for memory. So you have the M clock and the U clock. If they're running in sync or in the same frequency, so in this case 3000, then it's optimal and you don't get a performance penalty or a latency penalty. If you go above 6200 mega transfers per second on the memory, you will go. This one will go to 1500, so there's a 1-to-2 ratio, and then you will lose some performance. So keep this 1-to-1 for best performance, and if you need to go higher, go way higher. That's my advice.
Martijn, quickly gonna say goodbye.
Thank you.
See you.
And,
Thank you so much for being here today,
thank you.
Martijn.
Have fun on the stream. See you next time.
Okay,
Alright.
now we're gonna really try it out, Martijn.
Yeah. Now I'm going to overclock to the max. See, it's CPU anyway.
Let's see if we can make it smoke.
Yeah. So yeah, the memory is in the sweet spot, what they call it for AMD. You can go higher, but then you need to go way higher. So we just use this one. For Cinebench, we can also show you the clocks and the frequency. But that's the same, the power and also the thermals. Just open the sensor page of HW info. Here are the clocks. And why is this scaling differently now? This is very small anyway.
It is very small.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter, but I think something went wrong with the scaling. Because if I press the button, nothing happens. Okay, let's try that again. So now the scaling is back to normal.
And the button works again.
And also starts rendering, right? So it goes up to 5.2 gigahertz, something like that. Dips down a little bit and then goes up again. Also because of the cooling, probably. This is the memory. This is the cooling is about 82 degrees at the moment. If you let it run longer, then it will go up to like 84, something like that. Also, the fans are ramping up now, so it will balance out.
100% CPU load at this point, because it's running full load on all cores.
And power was 149 at max. Can run it again. It's 23.1 at the moment. If I close HW info, you'll get like 23.2, 23.3, something like that.
Every run it will differ slightly.
Yeah, so a little bit. Also, background tasks will also compete for some CPU cycles, so it will lower the performance or the score a little bit. But around 45 to 49, that's usually where the power is. In the beginning, it's a little bit higher and sometimes drops a little when the picture is rendered. Actually, I benchmarked all my benchmarks on this CPU, not on this one. So,
there may be slight
I just got this
variance,
one at 12 o'clock this afternoon.
But they should be
at the
very
moment
close.
we're 5:42 in the afternoon now
Yeah.
here. So now it's 23.2. So it fluctuates between 23.100 and 23.400, I would say. That's a bit of the ballpark in normal conditions.
So let's maybe have a quick look at how this compares to other CPUs.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you've done a lot of testing
Yeah.
beforehand.
And we also have, I don't have an 7800 X3D.
No.
So that one scores around 18,000,
18,000,
almost
yeah.
flat. So
Yeah.
then you can compare it directly with this one. So this is a good 5,000 points higher.
Yeah.
That's very good.
But as you can see here as well, this is of
Yeah.
course the multi-threaded benchmark. So this is raw CPU performance in rendering workloads, and
Yeah,
their
yeah.
cores make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So
So there's
basically,
other CPUs that do this task a lot better.
yeah, all other CPUs in this list have way more cores available. So in these kind
Yeah.
of synthetic multi-threaded benchmarks, they are just way faster.
Yeah, so this CPU is not really the key CPU for productivity.
Yeah.
If you want to do productivity and gaming, then the second from the bottom would be
Yeah.
a good
The
choice.
7950 X3D is very good
Yeah,
at that.
that's the best of both worlds. It has the X3,
Yeah.
the V-cache, and it also has
Of course,
two.
for gaming, it will be slightly slower than this newer generation,
Yeah,
but
true,
still
true.
very
Yeah.
good gaming.
But there
CPU.
might be, like in the future, a replacement of that.
Perhaps.
We don't know.
Martijn didn't want to tell us.
Exactly. So time will tell.
Yeah.
But for now, this CPU, the 7950 X3D, can do both. But we will say in the gaming charts that this new CPU definitely brings more performance in other tasks like gaming.
Let's maybe also have a quick look, because the single-threaded Cinebench takes quite a long time.
It
but
takes
you
a
have
long,
tested
yeah.
this beforehand, so maybe let's have
exactly.
let's have a
I
quick
can
look
run
at
it,
the scores
yeah,
here as well.
live, but it's not really useful because it takes about around on this CPU probably longer, more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
But here you can see that from a single-threaded point of view, it is very competitive with other CPUs.
Yeah, yeah,
They're all
exactly.
relatively close to each other. Of course, this only runs on one core, single-threaded.
Yeah.
So there, the other CPUs that have way more cores, they lose
Yeah,
their benefit
or-
of all their...
Yeah, or in the same family, the 9000s, probably the clocks are much higher on the 9950X because it's the highest part.
Yeah.
And it's more geared towards productivity. So yeah.
But here,
Optimized.
single-threaded, it's all
Yeah.
relatively equal.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas here, in the multi-threaded, you see the big differences depending on how many
Yeah,
cores it has.
This is especially multi-threaded, so core count will help you.
Then you also measured power consumption. So we already talked a little bit about the package power, but you also measured the wall power, also with a different configuration.
Yeah, the trouble is with the CPU package power is you can compare between the same family. So if you have a 9950X and a 9800 X3D, then because of the same family, the CPU package power should correlate.
Yeah.
And you can compare
They're
them.
measured in a similar way.
Yeah, but if you do like Intel and AMD or different generations of AMD, then it might not be 100% true.
Yeah.
But it would still be a very good indication, I would say. I do have a slide, or I've sent it to Michiel while Martijn was here.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can open it up and show the
Maybe
game.
later, I'll try to
Yeah.
get it in here as well. Yeah.
I try to filter out the gaming power efficiency. So how many frames per watt, and then based on the CPU package power that I captured with the HW Info 64 program, you can make log files and you can extract a lot of information, especially on power, clocks, and temperature. I'll always use this for just keeping an eye on things, and if it's not overheating, if it's clocking the right way and stuff like that.
So what we see here is basically the complete system, and then you run it with the same graphics card in all situations. So always
same
the
memory,
4090.
same and memory could differ because on Intel I used the 6400 memory.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's slightly different. The rest is all the same.
Yeah.
Same graphics card, same cooler.
And here you see
similar
that
cooler.
actually when you measure wall power in Cinebench, you kind of see that the 9800 X3D boosts quite a bit further than, for example, the 7000 series X3D, because in terms of power consumption of the complete system, the 9800 X3D is actually pretty close to the 7950 X3D.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Even though there is a 16-core CPU. So
Yeah,
with
and a lot more performance in the same test, so
yeah.
so the efficiency is also much
Yeah, so
better.
this is the performance you have. So you see, like, you score over almost 36,000 points with the a 7950 X3D, around 23,000 with the 9800 X3D.
And,
but the power
and the
consumption
least
is
power
relatively-
together with the 9800 X3D. Yeah.
Then you also calculated efficiency.
Yeah.
And that's where you see how efficient that 7950 X3D is on
Yeah.
these kind of workloads.
Exactly. Yeah. So for this kind of workload, this CPU is very good. I think still the all-core.
Yeah, the 7950X.
yeah,
X3D, yeah.
yeah. But did I say another one?
No, but this CPU, so not
There's
the
one CPU
9800
that probably
X3D.
can beat it, and it was the 5950X.
Yeah, that one was also crazy efficient.
That one was really low power, and that one, if you have that one, then it's still very good.
Yeah.
Good performance and very limited power needed. Yeah.
So for rendering workloads,
But this one's very good too.
Yeah, but like the 9800 X3D for these kind of workloads is not the most efficient CPU out there.
No.
Also not the fastest, but not really made for these kind of tasks either.
No. If you don't need that many cores for what you do normally, then this CPU is fine. And if your gaming is your main stuff on your PC, then
because that's where it excels. But before we go into that, let's maybe do another drawing for a giveaway.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you haven't participated yet, go to msi.com/2/insider, or if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, you can also follow the direct link that our bot puts in the chat once every 5 minutes. We're giving away game codes for Star Wars Outlaws, and if you already signed up for the giveaway, no need to do anything anymore. Our next winner for today, can you read this?
Hardly. It's Ridley. Ridley won.
Yeah. Ridley won. Congratulations. You also won a game code for Star Wars Outlaws. Congrats. And then let's go into what this CPU is really good at, and that is gaming performance.
Gaming, yes. Gaming is where it excels. I don't know if you want to just see like a gaming benchmark run, but the stuff you want to see is how it compares to other, right?
Yeah.
But I think, yes, Cyberpunk is always
Let's
good.
run at least something.
Yeah. I didn't do my overlay. I forgot it. Forgot to do the overlay.
You don't have the fancy overlay today.
No, yeah. It's not a graphic card theme. Yeah.
That's true.
It doesn't matter. Do we have connection? Yeah, we do. Well, what surprised me the most is, and there's also a good video on Hardware Unboxed on YouTube about it, is that Cyberpunk and more graphically intense, newer games tend to use the CPU a lot more than older games. And Cyberpunk is one example, but there's others too, also older ones.
So more optimized maybe to utilize more of that CPU?
Yeah, maybe better for multi-threading or even extracting more performance out of the newer CPUs. So old games are geared to old CPUs and might not make the best use of new CPUs and new performance metrics. But what also surprised me is that even though you crank up the workload, so the graphics workload.
Let me go back to your screen, by the way,
Yeah,
so people can see.
Oh yeah, right. So you think that the bottleneck will shift from the CPU to the GPU if you go from, for example, very low settings like I'm running now. At the moment I'm running 1080p and the graphics is, it said custom, but that's just the way how it works. Let's set it to the regular medium, but I always turn off the super sampling or the super.
So basically you get
no upscaling. So yeah, medium. I'm just running
rasterization performance.
Rasterization, exactly. No ray tracing, no upscaling, just medium settings. Then
Just
you'll
back
get
to
a
the
lot
basics,
of,
basically.
So then you think, okay, it's mostly CPU bound, so GPU. You can see the differences between CPUs very well because the differences are a little bit exaggerated or bigger. But what I have found was that if you crank up the load, so adding ray tracing to it, the frame rate dropped, but the CPU differences were still there. So yes, the performance differences were smaller in FPS, but in percentage, it was still very similar.
That's quite interesting because that
you
always
think that they will all group together. And yes, there are games that behave like this, but there are also games that don't really care about any CPU. We will show you an example from that as well. And so very different games have very different behavior on different CPUs, even with the same graphics card, and also on different resolutions or settings. So this one is running quite well. Of course, it's doing 200 and something average. We have it, the slide here. Oh, it's higher than I expected. So it does 318 in this run. And this is very hard to get over 300 FPS in this game. Even with the settings, quite low settings, and
this 49. Is something we haven't seen on our CPU before, right? These kind of frame rates.
No, the best one we had so far was the 7950 X3D, and this one was the one that was even surpassing that with fine margins, I would say.
Yeah.
And this is a really more like newer game, or at least newer than Shadow of the Tomb Raider and stuff. We've also been testing, right? So, and also Shadow of the Tomb Raider scales really well, but this one surprises if you do the same test and you do like 1080p and then ray tracing on, then you would say, okay, it comes much closer together, and it didn't. So that surprised me a little bit.
Yeah,
but
because that's not something you see very often.
No. And in the past with previous generations, and that was explained by Hardware Unboxed very well, that wasn't the case at all at that time. So if you look at the reviews from the 5800 X3D, then in 4K, all of them scored the same, but they were tested with a 3090 Ti. And that made all the difference. So with this graphics card, you can even show differences in 4K. I didn't test 4K, by the way, but they did, and yeah, that was really good.
But also quite impressive. That's still very.
And it also shows that this CPU also makes sense in 4K or in between, like 44.
At least in this game, because that's not
in this game. So not all games behave the same. That's for sure. Yeah, we have more slides on that as well. Yeah. So I just run the game, but if you don't see the graph, you don't have really any feel of
this more of a reference point. Also how, for example, the 7950 X3D previous generation X3D CPUs, you do see quite a bump up. That was already a very fast CPU for gaming at 383 on average, and that
I tried to simulate the 7800 X3D by disabling the CCD without the cache on the 7950 X3D, and then I saw a regression on Cyberpunk. So basically the same as if you run the X3D gaming mode on our new BIOS, you will see a regression in Cyberpunk.
In certain situations,
at least in the two CCD versions.
The thing, of course, what the benefit you can have with a dual CCD CPU, where one has 3V cache and the other one doesn't, is that it can offload certain background tasks also to the regular CCD. And it has this the X3D CCD available for gaming. So there you can indeed see a regression of performance.
The
when you switch
scheduling
that
happens that the gaming is on one CCD, so the rest is not what's not a game can be running on the other CCD.
Yeah, and now it's also on the X3D CCD.
Yeah. But usually that's not that much. But
you already briefly touched on it, because in some games you don't see any difference at all.
True. Yeah.
And one example of that is Black Myth Wukong, right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to care about any CPU I throw at it. It's basically flat.
So if this is the game you play all the time, it doesn't matter which, like any recent CPU will give you approximately the same performance.
But also no difference in 95th percentile FPS, also no differences. So that it doesn't really care about CPU.
No,
It just
it does
needs-
care about graphics cards.
Yeah, it does. It does
A lot.
Yeah, yeah. But I only tested with a 4090.
4090,
now,
yeah.
So, yeah.
But if you would replace this for a 4070,
Yeah,
let's
then-
say,
then
then
it
you
will
would see
drop.
a big drop.
Yeah, big drop. Yeah.
Whereas if you put in an older generation Ryzen 5, like a
56
7600
yeah.
or whatever, you
5600 might be enough. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, you're
For
not
this
likely.
game, yeah.
You're not likely to see a big
Yeah,
drop.
but I didn't test any Ryzen 7s or 5s or
Yeah.
i5s or whatever, so not sure. But yeah, for these game or these CPUs, this game doesn't show any difference.
Basically, everything performs identical here.
Yeah, yeah,
So there you also see the difference from game to game.
yeah. And
Where-
this is a very new title. Or,
Yeah.
newer than we have in this lineup.
Yeah, yeah. But like here, Cyberpunk, you see quite a significant difference
Yeah,
and
good
quite a big
difference,
bump
yeah.
up.
Mhm.
Also quite a big difference between, for example, Intel AMD.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the AMD,
But here,
the AMD
doesn't
were
matter.
already ahead, I would
Yeah.
say, and
in Cyberpunk, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and with the X3D they just expanded their lead.
Yeah.
Arrow Lake, apparently there's a performance increase coming up. There's a fix for
Mhm.
it. Intel announced it. They promised us end of this month or beginning of December. So,
But then you will probably see an increase in Cyberpunk, but it is very unlikely that it will do much for Black Myth Wukong,
no,
right?
it won't. But it doesn't score badly in Wukong. So
Basically,
yeah.
everything scores fine.
Yeah,
As long as
so-
your GPU is fast, you're
Yeah,
fine.
if you don't run into defects, then Wukong will run fine.
yeah.
Just depending on the graphics card. But yeah, so Arrow Lake, we don't know what will benefit from it. Only that they say they're gonna make a jump with gaming performance. So
Yeah.
and that's definitely needed, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
because Intel made a big step in terms of efficiency and productivity. They're also very strong,
Yeah.
but gaming, especially these
Yeah.
X3D CPUs, just seem to be a lot faster in
Yeah.
at least the majority of situations.
Also in the previous video when I was away, you did them with
Mhm.
I think Eric.
Yeah.
And there was also a very small one with the gaming power efficiency, right?
Yeah.
And then you could see that Intel, yes, they lowered the power consumption, but also lowered the performance. So that
Yeah.
wasn't really a very good showing.
It depends on what you're looking for as well. Like if you don't game on your PC, you do a lot of synthetic stuff and rendering, then
Yeah.
the Arrow Lake ones are very fast.
Yeah, they are.
But if you do specifically gaming on a CPU, then
Yeah.
a 9800
But-
X3D would make more sense.
So what I'm really interested in is that what if Intel can make gaming faster by putting a fix on it, or maybe
Yeah, the question is,
winning
do
of-
they have to give up efficiency?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah.
So does power increase with the same amount of percentage performance increase,
Yeah.
or even more?
Or exponential.
Yeah.
That could also be the case.
So
Yeah.
we don't know, but that's going to be an interesting one, at least from my side. Yeah.
You also tested Counter-Strike 2, very popular esports
Yeah,
game, and I think
Counter-Strike.
also quite a few Counter-Strike players would be eyeing this kind of CPU, because
Yeah.
especially the competitive gamers usually go
Yeah.
for very, very fast gaming CPUs.
Yeah, it's 1080p again, and I just use the high settings. It's also the default settings.
1080p is also probably the resolution most esports players will play.
Yeah,
at.
but
Very high
what
refresh
I've
rate.
learned, probably most people that are competitive and want to eke out every FPS, they will probably lower the details also because it's
Yeah.
easier to spot the enemies and don't get distracted by
Low
other stuff.
resolution,
Yeah.
low settings, high FPS.
Exactly. So what you see here is that the 9800 X3D is not that much faster than the 7950 X3D. They are both on the lead, I would say, but also the 99
9950X, yeah.
No, the
Or the
99th percentile
Oh, yeah,
FPS
yeah.
or the 1% low is even increased further. So
Yeah.
that's also good sign that it's gonna help gamers that are competitive.
But also the non-X3D 9000 series, they do perform very well here.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you still do see a little bit of an increase.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But in general, AMD is very strong in this title,
Yeah,
and all of their
also
latest
the
generations.
9950 is also fine. And yeah, I think all AMDs are running really well on this title.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you also have the Rainbow 6.
Yes,
Is
I do.
that- Yeah, that's the upcoming.
So this is the DirectX 11 one
yeah,
comparison of Rainbow Six
I
Siege?
did all my testing in previous CPU comparisons with Vulkan, but it turned out that Ubisoft removed Vulkan, so they replaced it with DirectX 11 was already
yeah.
there, but the second one is DirectX 12. DirectX 11 shows more differences, so there's a bigger difference between the CPUs and with DirectX 12, which we will see next. But the gaps are not that big, except for the 1% lows, or the minimum FPS, I should say.
And that's
in this
quite an
title.
impressive increase.
Yeah, that's also a good increase here. Yeah.
And
But-
that's also usually what gives you the better gaming experience,
Yeah,
because you
exactly.
take, well,
Yeah.
still the frame rates here are that high that you won't really notice any stutters if you're still
Yeah.
at these kind of frame rates.
What's the lowest?
The lowest is
570. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think you will see dips in the 500s that you will notice.
No, I don't think so either. But even the worst performing CPU here in the 1% lows is at 388. So
Yeah,
that's also already a lot.
There's also 1080p ultra setting.
Even with the
so,
360 hertz monitor, it will be
Yeah.
higher than the refresh rate of the monitor.
But also during these, with the Cyberpunk, if you run the benchmark, the fan spin of the graphics card, but with the Rainbow Six Siege, I think it just doesn't.
Oh, no, it doesn't even spin up the fans?
No, it's not even tasking the GPU enough in those settings to make the GPU
It's just
heat up enough.
casually chilling.
Yeah, exactly. So it's probably below 60 degrees centigrade. Yeah.
Then you also tested in DirectX 12. You already
Yeah.
mentioned it. It's
Much closer.
yeah, a little bit closer together.
Not much differences except for the error lake, the 265 KF.
And here also the 1% lows are a bit close, because between the 7950 X3D and the 8900.
Also, we know that DirectX
Or the
12
9800,
or Vulkan tend to have less overhead than DirectX 11, so it's to be expected that DirectX 12 would run better than DirectX 11.
Yeah.
But I also read on some forums that they say DirectX 12 version of the Rainbow Six Siege is not really consistent, or they have stutters and whatever. But
so higher
I
frame
haven't seen
rates,
it
but
in the benchmark, but
maybe more
didn't play it.
stability issues.
yeah, could be. And it's quite new because they changed it like 2 months ago or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think it's September or whatever. Anyway.
They also tested F122.
We don't have the updated version of F1 yet, so.
And also
but-
the data with the previous CPU is also from F122. That's why. we're not-
we were thinking maybe we will wait for F125 and do that one or something like that. But this one, also scales really well, and the X3D parts are coming on top. But what wonders me is,
but very equal between
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
and there's one thing, and I didn't change it because I want to just record it as it is. The 1% lows on the 9950X, I even double checked it. That run was actually that good. So, but the next one I also reran it, and then it was very close to the other one. So the 210 is more likely the minimum FPS or the 1% low for the 9950X than the 270 on the single run. But this was the run I was
A golden
measuring,
run, basically.
measuring all of the games. So the rerun was just to confirm if this is an outlier or not.
Yeah.
But
And basically it was. So if it doesn't consistently do much higher
but
1%.
I'm
lows
not
than
changing my numbers because it was a true result. So
Yeah.
But I just want to give you the
But if you would
note that
test it multiple times and average it out, they will be similar.
it will probably drop down to 210 or something like that.
Yeah. So very equal to the 7950 X3D and the 9800 X3D.
So the averages don't fluctuate that much, but the 1% lows are more fluctuating a lot. And depends on the game as well.
Then Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is an oldie but a goodie. This one really shines.
By the
for
way,
X3D.
this is the 9800 X3D.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Wait, there. This is 9800 X3D.
I missed the.
Just so you know, the bottom one is the
Did
one.
you use my updated file?
I think so.
The one in Teams.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then that's my mistake, definitely. yeah, it's definitely my
Doesn't
mistake.
matter. It's a
because-
highlighted one, so it's still clear which one it is.
Yeah. Because I already prepared the charts, and then I added the 9800 with an extra column in Excel, and then I needed to manually adjust all the charts.
I think chat will forgive you.
Yeah, okay. Please forgive me. Mea culpa. But the Shadow of the Tomb Raider really shows that the X3D parts shine in this example. Also, AMD is doing really well on this one.
Zawacek has an interesting question in YouTube that how can you have such a big fluctuation on the same run? Well, it is a different run. It is like one specific run that had very high 1% lows in
1% lows, and I don't know. I think the benchmark run I do in F122 is about 3 minutes. No, 2 minutes, I guess. So 2 minutes is 120 seconds. We were doing how many frames per second average? 400?
465.
Well, let's call it 400 to make it an easier calculation. So you will have about 50,000 frames in total rendered. So from the 50,000, then the lowest 1% would be 500. Divided by 100, yeah. So 500 frames should all be above what we say 271. Yeah. So actually you should recalculate it to milliseconds per frame time, but yeah, that's even more complicated. At least without Excel.
Excel makes calculations a lot easier.
A lot easier. And also they have functions for the 99th percentile, so you don't have to do it manually. You just key in the formula and it just spits out the right number. So the F122 generates an XML file with the results. It shows you the average, it shows you the 99th percentile, but also the 98th and some other ones I don't use. And I thought maybe it was wrong, but it also has a frame time CSV file, so you can just put it in Excel and then run the percentile formula,
double
and
check
it showed
basically.
exactly the same 271. So the
it
result
was
was correct.
Yeah.
So, but in those 500 frames, there might be like one spike or whatever, or some of them will be delayed by some background task, and then it will be 210. So it just was probably a lucky run, but
I think that's the key thing. You can. That's also people who are into overclocking and benchmarking. They will probably know. Sometimes you have lucky runs. Sometimes you have very unlucky ones. But when you have a lucky run, then you can see somewhat higher.
Should I exclude the lucky run? If I want to do it correctly, but it's
if it would be a ton of time, you would test everything multiple times.
5 times.
5 times.
Throw away the highest and the lowest,
and then average
the middle 3. That would be a good.
That would be the best way, but it would require a lot of time.
But I got the CPU yesterday. So no way. So that is very time consuming. But the F122 is really easy because I can script that. So the rest one I have to do manually.
Then the last benchmark results for gaming, Far Cry 6. And this one kind of baffled me, especially those 1% lows. Because
those 1% lows are almost as good as the best
average. This is pretty crazy, but this is something specific for Far Cry 6, right?
Yeah, it really responds
to
well
this extent
also
at
to
least.
the 7800 X3D. I don't have it, but
yeah.
So probably does a lot better than the 7950 X3D. So
for some reason this does better on a single CCD CPU.
Yeah, I think so. But also it really responds to the X3D. But
so probably that
maybe
combination
it doesn't show the X7950 X3D as well as it is, because if you compare it to the 7950X without the 3D, then it's probably way back. So maybe the 9950 is just very good also.
But it is kind of impressive. So already the average is very good, but the 1% lows are, I would say, even more impressive.
Yeah, so if we combine all the averages together, and AMD promised us 8% uplift compared to the 7800 X3D. I got 7% compared to the 7950 X3D.
Yeah.
So very close.
Very close to their
to
claim.
previous
Yeah.
generation X3D.
Yeah.
So very good. Yeah. And that was the averages. So all average FPS from every game, and that
Yeah.
that averaged, I would say.
And it looks like the 1% low
And the 1% low is even better.
more.
It's 12% better, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
You should have the data.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have it on paper, but it's over there. Anyway.
So basically, in terms of gaming performance, very impressive CPU.
Yeah, yeah, an uplift. I personally didn't expect. I would expect like Zen 5, and Zen 5, they call it Zen 5% in Hardware and Box, for example. I would expect to translate this also to the gaming part of the 9800.
I think the main difference here is not only the additional 3D cache compared to the existing 9000 series, but also that it can get the higher frequencies compared to the 7000 X3Ds.
They have much better power and cooling at this moment, so yeah, that will definitely also help.
Because the 7000 X3Ds got a bit of a frequency hit compared to the regular 7000, and here that one is gone.
Yeah, and you will get higher boost clocks in combination with 3D cache. Yeah.
Okay. Dude, thank you so much for all the testing and all the interesting information. I hope Chad also thought it was interesting. I at least really enjoyed it. I like the CPU, especially for gaming. I think it's a really interesting part.
Yeah.
If you do a lot of productivity, this is not the CPU for you. There are plenty of options, 9950X or the new 285K. There are plenty of very good productivity options. But for gaming, this is the one to beat at the moment.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. This is one to get, but hard to get.
Yeah, if you can get one, that can be a little bit of a challenge. Quarky is asking, Mike, are there any wood trimmed cases coming out? Maybe. We have shown something with a bit of wood on Computex. And maybe there will come more. Maybe not.
I don't know if you want to do the gaming power efficiency. I put on the.
Let me quickly look that up.
Yeah. Maybe switch to that one. Or
in the meanwhile, make sure to participate if you still want to be included in our last drawing for the giveaway.
I also put.
Let me quickly get your results in.
PBO stuff in it as well. Maybe you can show.
So we can get Ruud's latest test data.
Yeah, I just filtered it out from the HW Info 64 logs. I just do log files while running the Cinebench. Oh, sorry, the Cinebench. Cyberpunk. Similar. It's zoomed, sorry. So it will fit the
So
screen.
you want this one?
All of them.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay, one moment, because I will
You can
quickly
copy them.
paste them into this. So we can make them a little bit more readable size.
This is just a repeat of what we already showed.
Okay.
And then I just get the CPU package power that's logged by HW Info in software, and then you will see that what the power draw does compared to, for example, Raptor Lake or 13 or 14 Gen Intel, and then also how that translates to frames per watt, frames per second per watt. It's gonna be complicated, but.
So this will be where we start.
So yeah, this is the performance chart we already showed you. So the 9800 X3D is definitely on the lead.
So this is the performance part.
Yeah.
Just
so
performance.
how much power does it need to perform that good? And that's the bottom one. So it uses the least power together with the 7950X. Also
both the X3D parts basically.
The 265 from 265K from Intel also uses less power, but it wasn't very fast. And the 285K consumed very much the same power as the 9950X, but it was also slower. So power-wise, Intel's on on the right track, but performance-wise, they still need to catch up. Yeah, that's what I would say.
And then you calculated the efficiency.
You can just do FPS per watts, and then you can see how much difference there is. So especially those 13 and 14 Gen, those are really bad in power efficiency in gaming. You see, they consume a lot. Performance is okay-ish.
But this is also where you see how much of an efficiency step Intel made compared.
Yeah, true.
They're still not on the efficiency level of especially these X3D parts.
No,
but compared to the 13 and the 14,
if they can fix some of the gaming performance without increasing the power needed,
then it should be high up here.
Then it should be more level with AMD on the 9950. They cannot touch the X3D parts, but if they can reach the level of 9950X, they're already very good, I would say. But
so
they should have done that during launch, not like 2 months later or 1 month later.
So this also shows that even though this CPU does consume more power compared to, let's say, a 7800 X3D, the efficiency is still very good on this.
Yeah, I don't know what the 7800 X3D would use in Cyberpunk in this setting with this graphic card.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Probably less, but yeah. Also, performance might be just a little bit less as well. So
still the efficiency is not necessarily better. Yeah.
No, it could be very close.
Yeah.
Could be very close. Yeah.
Yeah. So power efficiency in gaming.
And that's one more slide, but one more chart you can maybe show for what we do with our PBO stuff.
Let me see. Is that one also in this?
Yeah, but it's in a different Excel. It's a different Excel, not a different tab.
Let me quickly pull it up to see if we can still quickly share that.
I put it also on Teams. It's a bit confusing because I call it 9800 X3D.
This is definitely opening up somewhere in a different screen.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Because what do you see on that chart? And which one is it?
The PBO result, yeah, that one. I made a chart of, you can zoom in maybe, or
yeah, I will zoom this one. And then share it right there.
Yeah.
There we go.
So basically this is what we do with our PBO presets.
Can you read this?
So basically the top one is BIOS defaults, and if you go to the performance presets, that's one of the tabs in BIOS. And it's called PBO auto. Basically PBO off would be a better name. BIOS defaults would also be a very good name. Or defaults, fine. What it does is it doesn't overclock at all. So we call that the baseline performance, and the last column is called improvement, or improv in this. So if you PBO enable, that's also available through the performance presets. Basically only does curve optimizer and turn on the OC scaler. Scaler is that it allows to boost without triggering the protection mechanisms as quickly as normal. So yeah, then it boosts a little bit higher, and you will get 1% increase in performance in Cinebench 23.
Yeah.
So yay, 1%. So we have additional PBO presets, and it's called PBO Enhanced Mode 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. And there you see
that is very
bigger negative offset for.
Yeah, and yes, the power is. I didn't put power here. The power is a little bit lower because
lower voltage.
Yeah, basically you undervolt more.
Yeah.
So, but the performance increase isn't that much. So it's only doing 1 to 2% increase, and the PBO Enhanced Mode Boost 1 and 2. That will give you the most, basically because the boost override is
so the frequency will also increase.
Put that up, and also the curve optimizer is even lower, so even more undervolting to keep the power down.
So basically more undervolting and more overclocking.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah, and that's when you see the
4
bigger
to 5% increase in performance with multi-core loads, which is not something that this CPU is designed for.
Yeah.
But you can play around with these stuff.
But it would improve efficiency. Of course, it is not guaranteed that it can do minus 40 offset.
Location in our BIOS to overclock, and that's in the easy menu. And the first icon is called Gain Boost, but it does exactly the same as PBO Enable in the power performance preset.
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be combine all those presets, put it in one menu, and let the user choose.
Yeah.
But
keep in
Who
mind
am
though,
I?
if you're going to fiddle around with this, not every CPU can do a negative offset
it's
this
still
far.
overclocking. It's
Yeah.
still
And
running
especially like
beyond
minus
spec.
30 or even further, those are big negative offsets. So
Yeah.
if you're not one of the happy few that has a very good CPU, then
Yeah.
it can become unstable.
For example, this CPU can do the PBO enhanced mode boost 1, but crashes in PBO enhanced mode boost 2.
Yeah.
And this CPU can run all of the modes,
Yeah.
no problem.
So there you already see the silicon lottery in
that's-
action, basically.
So
Yeah.
2 CPUs already have different behavior.
Yeah.
And the minus 40, I tried minus 50 on this one, but that crashed as well. You can also do the manual settings. But
And this is still a single CCD.
Yeah, minus
From my
50 is the
experience,
maximum
at
you can
least
set, yeah.
in the 7000 series, for dual CCD CPUs, it's
Yeah.
probably even more limited what you can do in terms of negative
exactly.
offset.
Yeah.
So usually the Ryzen 5s and Ryzen 7s, because those are the single CCD CPUs, they
Ryzen
tend
9
to be able to go further.
used to go around minus 15. And,
Yeah.
I think the
Maybe
single
minus 20 if
CCD,
you're lucky.
minus 30 if you had a good one.
Yeah.
And this one is very good, and that one is also pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, that was it for today. Thanks for all the content,
Yeah.
Ruud.
Okay.
Hey, I forgot to change the next week thing. I can quickly fix this. One moment, chat,
We're gonna do the same one next week.
because you want to know what we're gonna. Even more. I can fix this for you guys, because of course you want to know what we're actually gonna do. And it's actually a very fancy one. There we go. Because we're going to talk about Stalker 2 themed MSI products.
What game will you give away?
Next week.
Yeah, Stalker.
I don't know. I think
would be
I'll be
cool.
on a holiday, so I definitely won't be here.
Okay.
I think Peter is doing this one, I would assume.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he has been able to arrange some Stalker 2 keys, but
That would be cool, right?
yeah, in any case, he will show you the Stalker 2 themed products, and there will be a giveaway. Don't worry about that. I don't know which one exactly. I will also do our last giveaway for today. And let's see if Ruud can read this.
Andrew.
Good glasses, good glasses.
Yeah.
Andrew, congratulations.
Sometimes I need to zoom in a little bit. Or I have a multifocal, or what is
Oh,
that
yeah,
called
yeah.
in English? Yeah.
Fancy glasses.
So,
yeah.
so here I cannot see it, and if I do that, it's better. Yeah.
But Andrew, congratulations. There will probably be more people called Andrew. So
Yeah.
if you get an email, then you know you're the lucky Andrew. If you don't get an email, then you're the unlucky Andrew. Or one of the unlucky Andrews, maybe. I don't know how many people called Andrew participated. But congrats again to all the winners. We will email the codes to you in the coming days with some instructions on how to redeem it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you thought it was interesting. Thanks again, Ruud, for all the testing, all the data, all the comparisons.
Interesting, yeah. It was not so surprising, so yeah, this one was easy.
Yeah, it was easy.
Yeah, the other reviews,
Despite having only one day with this CPU.
the other launches were much more tasking, I would say. This one
Can
was
imagine.
just running fine from the beginning. Yeah.
Well, you've only spent one day with it, so you can still play around with it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed it too. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you again next week. Same place, same time. Not with me, because I'll be on a beach somewhere, but probably with Peter and I think Monkey. So I hope to see you then.
Okay.
Thank you for watching.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.